Good evening, residents, staff, and fellow commissioners. Welcomes to the Planning Commissions of September 22nd, 2020. And the regular Planning Commission is called to order. Followed by, we have a moment for silence, and then our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Red Holt right here, our Commissioner Red Holt. And Mark, could you please call order? Roll call. Oh, okay. All right. So we'll pledge. Okay. Do a moment of silence. And our commissioners, Red Hope will lead us with Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mark, can you please take a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice Chair Holtz, Commissioner Jaquez,
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Redholz, and Chair Hing.
Here.
We have a quorum. And I would like to make one quick announcement. Anybody who would like to speak, there are pink speaker cards up here. If you can fill them out if you haven't already, and I'll collect them.
Approval of minute. Does anyone have any changes to the minute of August 25th, 2020? Seeing none, the minutes of August 2020 are approved as submitted. Oral communications. Does anyone have any oral communications that's not on the agenda for tonight? If you do, you can just fill out the form and just come up. None? Okay, so public hearing, do we have an oral communication? So if we don't have any oral communication currently, we're gonna start public hearing. Administrative use permit number 17-15, subcommittee for design review number 17-27, second unit review number 20-35, tree removal permit number 20-009, and exception category application is Hai Singh. This is on 1140 South Spring Meadow Street. And Joanne will be presenting. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the public, and also members of the Commission. I'll go ahead and first start off the presentation with a description of the site and also a list of the entitlements that are required and that are within the Planning Commission's purview tonight. The administrative use permit is required for a few reasons. As far as the project is concerned, it is required because it is a two-story house. It is considered a large house because it exceeds the maximum unit size exception of 8,000 square feet by less than 25%. The project involves a series of retaining walls that are greater than 4 feet in height, and a large accessory structure review is required for the under the AUP process because they are proposing an accessory structure totaling with a total larger than 1,000 square feet. As far as subcommittee design review is concerned, subcommittee design review is required for all projects that has some visibility from the street. The project is also requesting the removal of 4 heritage trees. The site is a flagged lot that's over 60,000 square feet that is located on the south side of Spring Meadow Drive. This is a portion of the existing site. The existing building pad is located towards the rear of the site. The existing house is the area that's shaded in red. And the existing house is located and situated approximately 80 feet higher than the street. And all proposed construction would be greater than 200 feet away from the front property line. I've highlighted the trees that are proposed to be removed. And there is one tree that is not on the plan that they are proposing to remove. That's one of the 16-inch palm trees. This is a photograph of the existing house. The existing house is approximately 2,000 square feet. And this is a photograph of the existing house taken from across the street on Spring Meadow Drive, or the lot across the street from Spring Meadow Drive. This is the existing, or the driveway for the site. And it's minimally visible from the street due to the grade difference from the street. And this is a photograph that's taken from the driveway. This area right along here that you can kind of see, that you can see from the driveway, is a portion of that is a wood, like a plywood detail, and a portion of it is a retaining wall that was created through the unpermitted grading on site. Here are the project details. The proposed house is a 9,869 square foot house, 2-story house. And the area highlighted in purple is the approximate location of the proposed house. I would also like to point out the outer red line surrounding the property is the location of the property line, and the inner red line is this, basically it's a setback line. Anything beyond that line encroaches into the required setback. So in this case, no structures are being proposed to encroach into the required setbacks, and all structures would comply with the setback requirements. They are also proposing a 2,105 square foot RV garage and workshop on the north side of the property. And in addition to that, they are proposing a 3-car garage on the south side of the property that's highlighted in gold. I would also like to point out that above the garage, they are proposing an accessory dwelling unit. Although the accessory dwelling unit is included in the public hearing notice and is also briefly described in the report, it is not within the Planning Commission's purview because state law requires that accessory dwelling units be permitted ministerially and are not allowed to be approved through a hearing process. The site of the existing house will be on the same building pad as the proposed house, and the building pad would be expanded by a series of retaining walls that I've highlighted in blue. These series of intricate retaining walls would have a maximum height of 8 feet, and the wall on on the bottom of the courtyard area would be 6 feet in height. And this would be leveled, and then they would construct another 6-foot high wall along this area, and each other wall would have an 8-foot maximum height. Each wall would be separated by 5 feet, at least 5 feet, because the municipal code requires that each retaining wall and structure be separated by 5 feet. Otherwise, it would count as one single height rather than as different structures. Here is a photograph taken from the courtyard area where the RV garage is approximately going to be located. And across the way from Spring Meadow, at a distance, you can see one of the neighboring properties' homes in yard area. So although they are at a distance and they are minimally visible, as some people say, if they can see you, you can see them. So they will be able to see the site and the proposed house from their property. And this is a photograph of the site taken from Spring Meadow. I'm sorry, from Citrus Avenue or Citrus Street. And the site this area along here where the Italian cypress trees are located. And from Citrus, you would be able to see the site or the proposed house in this location as well, or in this view. As far as the retaining walls are concerned, there is some draft condition of approval that is written in the draft resolution requiring the applicant to install landscaping and that would screen the walls from view. This will minimize the impact as far as massing is concerned. This is the first floor plan. The first floor of the existing house is 6,343 square feet. It will have an entry foyer or lobby, an office, a lounge area, a living room, a storage area, 2 storage rooms from what it looks like, a study room, 2 bedrooms, a gym, a media room, a kitchen, a pantry, a bathroom, and a laundry area. And this is the second floor plan. The second floor of the existing house, or the proposed house, I'm sorry, is 3,626 square feet. It will also have an intricate balcony or deck that would surround the perimeter of the second floor along this area where the arrow is being traced. In that balcony is 1,745 square feet. A large portion of the second floor is taken up by an area, or by what we call volume space, because there is no actual floor area there. It is just open from above or below the first floor. So it would have 2 stairs leading up to the family room area. On one side of the wing, there would be 3 bedrooms, each with their own bathroom. And on the other side, there would also be 3 bedrooms, each with their own bathroom. Staff does have some concerns along the north side, because the north side neighbor has a swimming pool, and the the swimming pool area would be visible from the second floor. This photograph is taken from the existing deck right along here, which the second floor would be, the proposed second floor would be a little bit higher than this point of view. So it would be visible. So staff is suggesting place a condition of approval in the draft resolution requiring that screening be installed along the slope. And in addition to that, the Planning Commission also has the authority or option to require the applicant to eliminate the north portion of the proposed deck or balcony. This is not conditioned. This is solely up to the Planning Commission if the Planning Commission feels that this is necessary. Here is the front elevation. The height of the house itself, since it is at least 5 feet away from these retaining walls, is 25 feet, taken from the lowest finished grade to the highest point. This along here is a photograph or the elevation for the workshop. There is a condition of approval listed in the draft ordinance that requires the applicant to either remove the windows or change it to clerestory because a workshop is not supposed to be livable space. Here is the rendering of the project. I'll leave it up here for a second. So this is along the front, and I guess this view is supposed to be at the bottom of the stairs. Staff did a survey of 10 neighbors, 10 abutting neighbors, and also the neighbors, few neighbors across the street of the project site. And we surveyed the size of each house, the lot size, and also calculated the floor area ratio. And the proposed house is 2.77 times larger than the average size house, though the house size in the surveyed area ranged from 2,600.
I'm sorry, Joanne. Could you speak up louder a little bit?
2,626 square feet to 5,382 square feet. The floor area ratio from the surveyed homes range from 5% to 20%. The proposed floor area is 15%. Although the proposed house is far larger than other homes in the area, the size of the house is not unusual for estate property similar to the subject lot. In addition, the proposed floor area ratio is within the neighborhood range. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving AUP 1715, Subcommittee Design Review 1727, and Tree Removal Permit 2009. If the Planning Commission has any questions, I'm available to answer it. Also, I would like to note that I did receive several phone calls from concerned neighbors. And also, I did receive emails and letters from neighbors. I have provided the Planning Commission copies of those letters, and I do have one neighbor on Zoom that is requesting to speak and address the Planning Commission.
Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. I have a few questions. Question is where to begin with the questions. I don't believe it's in the staff report, but you didn't. I don't believe it talked about the code enforcement issues.
Yes, there are code enforcement issues on the property, and there are code enforcement issues on the property. And the initial code enforcement issue has to do with unpermitted grading. The applicant or the property owner did have some grading done on the site that was done without permits. And that is being addressed by code enforcement. They are working with our engineering division to address the unpermitted grading and stabilizing the slope. And also, this project would allow them to construct the retaining walls necessary for that as well. In addition to this, there was some reports regarding an Airbnb being operated on the site. So the code enforcement officer did find a listing for the Airbnb, and that is being addressed separately. And there were also reports that there is a Buddhist temple being operated on the site, or a meditation center. The site is owned by a nonprofit religious organization. However, code enforcement did not physically see or observe a large amount of people are gathering on the site, or see any temple or services, religious services being conducted on the site during their investigation.
Okay, and this, for want of a better term, this illegal grading was done by the current owner, correct? No, sir. No. It's not the way it works, sir. Okay.
I don't believe the ownership has changed since then, so
So it would be the current owner. And do we know if this illegal grading was done by a licensed contractor?
I do not know.
Okay, perhaps the applicant would know that. And is it possible, can we assume that the grading was done prior to and anticipation of the project that's in front of us now? Is that
Joanne,
something?
can you bring up that map and show us where the grading was done?
So it was done right along here, and also for this driveway right along here.
Okay.
I can't speak to whether or not it was done in anticipation of this project. It was done a few years ago, and I wasn't here at the time.
Okay. Now I have another, maybe if we could bring up the floor plans for floor 1 and floor 2. I have a question regarding those. On the floor plan, it indicates several identifying descriptions of rooms: bedroom, study, gym, storage, office. There's a myriad of descriptions for various rooms, basically. Now the question is, do those rooms need to be, is it necessary that a stock room would be used as a stock room? Or a study as a study? Or a, one second. Well, the question is, it's not mandatory that those rooms are used for what they indicate they will be used for on the floor plan. Is that correct?
The floor plan does have those labels, and as far as like for instance the storage, when if a house is constructed with a storage room in it, we can only control what we are approving. We after the project is built, we cannot control what it's going to be used for.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but we're talking about media room, storage room, gym, study room, and the bedrooms. So basically, there is a potential for up to 19 to 21 bedrooms, the way I look at this.
For this, not necessarily for one of the storage rooms, and also the pantry, because in order for it to be considered a bedroom, there would have to be some ingress, egress access from the outside. But for the other rooms, yes.
Okay. Still, there's an opportunity for a lot more than what is indicated as bedrooms. Can you talk to us a little bit about the ramifications of the terracing, the retaining walls? Is there? It looks like it's used to expand the footprint.
Yes, because there is a slope there, and in order for them to construct a house that would be considered as a single structure height per the West Covina Municipal Code, the series of retaining walls are required. In addition to that, our code does limit the height of retaining walls to 8 feet. Visually, let's see. Let me go ahead and. Per the code, it wouldn't add to the height of the house. The height of the house would not be taken from the grade of the lower retaining wall, because it is separated by 5 feet. Each wall is separated by 5 feet, and each house is separated by 5 feet. But visually, without buffering, it would contribute to the mass and bulk of the house.
Okay.
And this is why one of the recommendations is to require landscape screening in front of the retaining walls.
Actually, may I ask a question, Joanne? You had mentioned earlier that the existing footprint. Can you show us what was the existing house footprint on the plan? So the red portion is the existing footprint of the existing right now, current?
Yes, per their survey.
Okay. And can you overlap the new one that they're?
So they're expanding it frontwards and backwards.
Thank you. Does any other commissioners have questions for our staff? If not, then I'm going to open up this to public hearing. So with the architects or the owners? Do we have questions for the architect or the owners, or would you like to come and explain your project? Yeah, please come to the microphone so everyone else can hear you.
Good evening, Honorable Planning Commission. My name is George Xu. I'm with Covina Design and Construction, Inc. We are representing the owner. I like to point out the owner is, his name is Honorable Xinghai Monk. So he built this project mainly as his primary residential house for himself. There's lots of room, but Xinghai Monk, he's also in movie and TV making business. So in his house, he needs room for screening and lots of do his own study and some research work. That's why there's he needs a big house like this. And I like to point out in the surrounding area, there's a large house much bigger than what we proposed. We have the land more than 70,000 square foot. I understand we can go up to 30%. That's more than 20,000 some square foot. And now we're only proposing less than 16%. About the grading, grading. Oh, okay. Okay. Any other question I can answer?
I have questions.
Yeah, Commissioner Redholt has a question for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, sir, did you or someone in your under your authority order that grading to be done on the property?
No, we take over this project recently. As a matter of fact, only a couple of weeks ago. But I heard about this illegal grading work. Xinghai Monk did mention to us he will take care of, and during this new construction and the demolition of the existing house, he'll make sure all those grading work gonna be comply with the city code. I understand the previous grading area is open space, so he's thinking of maybe tear up and do the recompaction. Those area is not for site for construction of a new building. It's going to be open space.
Okay, you just mentioned that the owner, it sounded like he's going to live there by himself, and he's in the movie business, and he needs all this room. That's what I think I just heard. So
Yes, sir, he has a big family.
big family. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a question. We were a nearby resident, provided us with an email that appears, and I'm going to ask you to comment on it.
Yes,
It appears to be advertising that address as a bed and breakfast. Instant confirmation bed and breakfast in West Covina at this address. And it's advertising shared bathrooms, shared, bedrooms, kitchens, and so forth. It's right here. So could you comment on that, please?
You mean you saw the ads on internet?
A resident, a neighbor, sent this to planning staff, and it was provided to us prior to the hearing right now. And it lists the organization as the American International Buddhistic Union.
Yes.
And the address is 1140 South Spring Meadow Drive, which is the subject property we're talking about tonight.
Yes.
And it has multiple pictures of bedrooms and so forth, with the description, instant confirmation, bed and breakfast, West Covina. Can you explain that to me, please, sir? It also has so much per night, 39, I don't know what that is, 39 euros or something per night, 1 to 4 people.
Well, my name is Bill Shen, and the Trans-American Engineering. I did not know the project as much as but the question to answer that.
Can you speak into the microphone, sir? So we.
All right. Obviously, this is illegal to do that now. So whatever residential zoning requires to do, they only have to do for residential purpose. So this is probably at the beginning. That's how they promote this, original project for.
So as far as you know, either one of you can answer, who was the one that put this on the internet or placed the ad?
Okay. As far as I know, Xinhai monk, he planned to be taking a trip outside of the country. As a matter of fact, he's in Asia right now, and there's no people gonna taking care of this area, the house for him. So I think he put up ads. And this lady here, Xiao Cui, he answered the ads, and now he moved in there just for this 1 or 2 months while Xinhai monk come back from Asia. Xiao Cui gonna be out of the house. So we're not doing this for business, just need somebody to taking care of the property, that's all.
Sir, you understand, if I may interrupt, you understand that by looking, there is a reasonable conclusion that one could come to, that this is a hotel.
No.
No. Let me tell you, that's a reasonable conclusion. When you say Wi-Fi is available in public areas and free of charge. Free public parking is possible on site. Reservation is not possible. Pets are not allowed. Children are welcome. Sir, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
For that project, I'm sure that's many years ago. So when they proposed, they probably had this in mind.
How can they be advertising something many years ago and it's not even there?
Well, right now, of course, go through this process, they find out this is not possible to be. And
I'll yield my time to somebody.
It is illegal to have a business in the residential area. So
I don't think you're allowed to have a hotel. Okay.
No, Xiao Cui, she's here. You can ask her. She didn't pay anything. She lives there free. Not just for free breakfast. She got to bring 3 meals. The lady is right here. She answered the ads you mentioned. We are not using that room, that building, that house for any business purpose.
no, that's for sure.
Maybe perhaps Xiaoxing should come down and we can ask some questions, please. Does anyone?
I'm sorry.
My English is not good.
It's okay. Does our fellow commissioners have questions for her?
I'll take it up to ask the question then. Continuing on the vein that Commissioner Redholz was following, this rather apparent, rather clear ad for using this residence to host a bed and breakfast for some type of compensation, per night, appears to be an ad for, commercial purpose. And apparently you're the person that answered this ad, correct?
I don't understand.
You want me to be the interpreter?
If you could, please.
Go ahead and interpret for her.
First of all, she didn't understand, so can you repeat the question again?
Is she the person who answered this ad?
Can I see the picture?
说你是不是看了这个广告来？你看过这广告吗？
You mean I live here? Okay, let me ask the question then. Are you the owner of that house? Recently, from July and August, and now I live here.
Not the
问
owner.
你是不是 owner？
Are you the owner? Can you interpret for her?
是不是
Oh,
你是不是
I'm not the owner. I'm just live here. Okay. Do you pay any money to the owner? Can you interpret for her, please? No. Okay. So you stay there for how long? 1 month. Okay. You stay there for 1 month? 1 month. Thank you. Does anyone else has questions for her?
I'd still like an answer to my question as to how she came to be living there. Did you respond to an internet ad for this, to live at this house? Did you respond to an internet ad? This ad?
No, I didn't see this advertisement. How did you know about this place? A friend introduced me to here because I'm the volunteer here because he didn't pay money and don't need me to give him money because I some difficult in money, so he do a help for me. Okay, so he's helping you out. Basically, you're staying there for free. Free? You interpret for her, please? Yes, for free. So prior to coming, you do not know the owner? Prior to coming to live at his house, you did not know the owner? Not know him before. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Does anyone has other questions? Okay, all right. So, thank you. For now, do we have any other questions for the architect or?
And excuse me, Madam Chair, members of the commission, members of the audience, and representatives for the applicant, this is your time to present any information on this application. So do you have anything else that you would like to tell the commission?
Basically, all the plans already.
The mic?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if there's any question.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that this design team is a new design team that's been working with the property owners and just started working with them about 3 weeks ago. So this is a new design team that has been working with the property owner that started working with the property owner approximately 3 weeks ago. The property owner has done several changes in design team over the last 2 years.
Go ahead. Sorry, give me one sec. Our commissioners,
With all due respect, it's probably me, I didn't understand one thing any of those people said. I mean, I'm sitting there straining to listen what they're saying, and I didn't hear one word that they said. I really didn't. And I was looking at the audience, and a lot of the audience are going, what's going on? So I don't know how we can make any kind of decisions or anything if we don't understand what they're saying. And I don't know how my fellow commissioners feel, but I didn't understand it. The other thing I'd like to say is I have never been up on that property. I have tried 3 times to get up on that property to see what's it like. And I'll be telling you right now, I can't make a decision unless I get up there and see for myself what's going on and where this building is going to be placed and all that. So I'm really saying I'm in the dark of what's going on and what they're asking for. I mean, I see the plans, and a lot of work went into the plans and the structure of this thing, but I'm getting mixed signals, what it is and what's going in there and how is it going to be used and what was done before. Are they in violation of some code? So I think we need a new beginning on this thing. I really do, because I don't know what's going on.
okay, I'd like to continue the public hearings on the oppositions for this project.
Is there anybody else in favor of it?
Mr. McGray, is anyone else in favor of this project?
So, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
my understanding is you're making a motion at this time to continue this public hearing?
Well, I think since all the residents are here, we should hear what they wanted to say.
Okay.
So, and then we can have a discussions after we hear both sides.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, now would be the time.
Yes, but it doesn't, is there anyone else in favor of this project that would like to speak for the project? Okay, if.
You're in favor?
Are you in favor? Okay, go ahead. So you are with the owner.
See,
Gotcha.
so something's not clear. As you mentioned, the architecture. Yeah. The architecture all of a sudden got blind his eyes, so didn't explain clearly about this project. From what I just recently.
I'm sorry to.
Ji Li.
Yes, thank you. Please speak into the mic and please
My name
introduce
is Ji
yourself.
Li. I'm from a construction company, U.S. Longton. So I know the owner, so she just asked me to help for developing this project. I just recently involved in this project. Basically, from what I'm understanding is, okay, the owner itself is a monk. It's a famous monk in China and here. He developed a very famous movie. It's a legacy about China from 2,000 years ago, the legend story. He himself involved to develop this film. That's why he has so many relationships. He has so many friends. He wants to use movie this way to spread out the religion about Chinese monk, something blah blah. And also he's working on the TV series, try to develop some TV series. Xuan Zhang, Sun Wukong, in China, a very famous movie. Yeah, he's doing that. That's why he tried to make use of this land. He has big family in China as well to develop a big house, about 10,000 square feet. At the beginning, I just involved the beginning, so it's even larger than that. So we persuade him we don't need that big, try to reduce size. It's under 10,000 square feet and 2-story and not exceed 28 feet high. Because there's a slope hillside, then there's a retaining wall restriction, so they got 4 feet high retaining wall, 5 feet apart. So that's why there's so many steps, looks like that. But for the room size, there's a family room, living room, kitchen. It's a residential lot. he has some friend visit. I've been there several times, visit him frequently. So it doesn't mean there's a party. There's no any. I didn't see any party. You know, he's a monk himself. He has respect religion. That's why sometimes I just see that there's some illegal grading. I hear about that before, so we try to compliance with the code with the new development to eliminate all of the violation with the code. Advertisement, first time I heard it tonight. I don't think he make that for a living. You know, people give some donation. Sometimes it's not. I use this as a commercial side to earn some money. I don't think so. Even me, and lots of people help him. They didn't charge money. I didn't charge anything for him. They just help him to, realize his dreams there, something like that. So that's the purpose. On what I'm standing is just for residential only. I'm a lesson contract, I know. Yeah, if he do something illegal, I cannot risk my lesson to help him to do something wrong. No, nobody want to do that. Also, we concern about neighborhood. We try to don't do exceed too high to keep the privacy of the neighborhood, and try to make good living environment for that piece of land. Okay, thank you. I still want to add something, try to clarify the concept of that.
Thank you. But we may have questions for you since you do. Go ahead. I mean, yeah, stay up here.
Yeah, you see.
The work that was done, are you familiar with the work that was done already?
Yeah, the new design, I know something. It's not me, somebody did that.
Okay. What about the grading? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Can you explain to us which part was done?
Oh, this is just a concept design. So the grading will be civil near to the grading compliance submit to city for plan review. No problem for the grading. The violation, the major about the road, and some part I don't know before what the land look like. When I go there, it's like that right now. It's already been done by somebody else. So okay. I don't know the previous situation. So
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Does anyone else has a question? So we're gonna start with
Chair, if I
go
may.
ahead.
We do have a Zoom call, and there is a request that we take the Zoom call first. He's calling from the East Coast, so
Okay,
they're
go
3
ahead.
hours ahead. His name is Mr. Michael Good. He is a neighbor. Let me go ahead and unmute. Mr. Good?
Hello, yes? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are live to address the Planning Commission regarding 1140 South Spring Meadow.
Okay, well, thank you for giving me some time to talk to the commission. My name is Michael Good, and I represent the family of William and Pearl Good. Our extended family has lived at 2943 South Citrus, just adjacent to the Spring Meadow property since 1962. Now, for several years since the current owners have owned the Spring Meadow property, having bought it from the Trudeau family, they've maintained it as a relatively normal residence for a small number of Buddhist monks, I believe. And now we see this proposal, which is almost 16,000 square feet of project in all, with large multi-story buildings and outbuildings with workshops and garages. And it, while I don't really know directly what their intention is, it would seem that they're building what I would imagine to be a temple complex or a religious complex, which I would fear would serve the purpose of having large numbers of visitors come for religious purposes. a couple of years ago, without a permit, they brought in many truckloads of fill and filled up a ravine that was right adjacent to our property. And in spite of a cease and desist order, proceeded to build a very large parking lot. So it would seem that they're preparing to have large numbers of visitors. We do have a considerable language barrier with them, so I've never really been able to talk to them to fully understand what their intentions are. But looking at the project that they propose, it does seem to be a very large project, and I can assume that it's for a large number of people. And it will very negatively impact our house, which is right underneath that property. And the parking lot that they built, which hasn't been used very much, if it is used, will have large numbers of people looking right into our home. We have a mid-century modern house with all glass sides looking to the west. And if there's large numbers of visitors, they'll be looking right into our home. And that would very, very negatively affect our family. I also have concerns if they still have a septic system, how a septic system would be able to support such a large structure and the large number of people coming there. I have concerns about water runoff during winter rainstorms and what effect that would have on our property. And I also have concerns about the environmental impact of such a project. When they filled in the ravine used to be a natural wooded ravine with cactuses and trees. There was an endangered cactus wren family that lived in that ravine that I used to enjoy watching for many an hour, and that cactus is now gone. I see in their plans they plan on removing the oak tree, or an oak tree, which I think is the one adjacent to our property, and that natural oak is the home to many species of birds, bush tits, yellow rump warblers. I've seen an Asheville warbler. So there used to be a large amount of wildlife that lived in that little valley or ravine that's now been turned into a concrete parking lot. And I think that had a very negative impact on the environment. So in all, I am very, very worried about what they're planning to do and how it will affect all of the neighbors. But I can certainly speak for ourselves to have a huge complex looming over us and to have large numbers of visitors parking in a parking lot that is now looking right into our property in a place where traditionally since 1962, there was just a natural ravine there, has us very concerned. And I hope that you will not allow this project to move forward in our residential area. Doesn't sound like an appropriate project for the neighborhood. So I thank you very much for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. Does anyone has any questions for him since he's on the phone? Not right now? No, not yet.
Are we able to ask Mr. Good questions? Oh, okay. I'd like to ask a question then. How long ago, Mr. Good, did these two activities occur, to your recollection, with the bringing in of fill material and filling in the ravine, and the construction of the parking lot? Was that how long ago was that?
I'm sorry, Joanne, I really couldn't understand the question.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll speak louder. How long ago do you recall that the filling in of the ravine and the construction of the parking lot, when did it occur? When was that?
I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago. We made some inquiries to City Hall, and for a while they actually put a cease and desist on the project. They were bringing in contaminated fill filled with chunks of asphalt and concrete. And there was a brief pause, and then they just continued. And we were never able to get any kind of answer from City Hall as to whether that was legal or not. But it was, fairly fairly upsetting to us.
Okay, so your understanding, there is no conclusion in terms of building or code enforcement on those activities.
Again, there's a lot of echo here, but it's my understanding that initially there was no permit, and there was a cease and desist, and some police came, and I think some town officials came. There was a little pause, and then they started continuing the work late at night, and they completed it. And I was never able to figure out whether that they ever got permission or formal permits to build that parking lot.
Joanne, can you show us on the map where he is talking about the grading and where the ravine is at? I just need to see which part of.
I'm going to go ahead and move his.
I felt like it's on top of a hill, so I don't.
So I believe that he's talking about this parking pad right here.
I'm sorry, where is it again?
This parking pad, like right along here. I believe that's what he was referring to.
Okay, and then where is the ravine that he was talking about? Right there?
Where the parking is.
Okay.
There was a ravine, but it's now filled in.
Okay, all right, thank you. Does anyone else has questions since he's on Zoom?
I have a question.
Okay.
Glenn Kennedy here. So that property still has a septic tank? Do all those properties do? Okay.
Thank you. All right, no, not yet. We have to go through all the oppositions, then you can answer that question.
It's okay.
Okay. I think next is Michael McGrade.
Thank you, Mr. Good.
I'm going to ask to take off the mask if it's okay, so I can talk. My name is Michael McGrade. Address is 2953 South Citrus Street. And I am here also to oppose this project, especially in its current format. What I can ascertain here is nobody here really knows who owns the property. We've heard several different things. We've heard nonprofit. One thing that staff did not mention and failed to mention, which is very critical, is that they don't pay any property taxes. And I've been trying to get an answer on that from the city for the last 5 years, or actually they bought the property in 2012. My understanding is from the county assessor, you need a conditional use permit, that's all derived and driven from the city. There's been no answers for 5 years on this property. They pay $300 a year in property taxes. How many people here pay property taxes? Can you raise your hand? Thank you. Okay?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay, so that is issue number one. Issue number two, there was no mention of curbs or gutters in an improvement project like this, the massive size. We've had other developments with where they've had to put in curbs and gutters on the street. Michael
turned off
obviously
my
mentioned
sound.
about the septic tank. That's a very, very big concern on a project this size. We're very concerned about it being a single-family dwelling. We think that this is something other than a single-family dwelling. And then back to the tax exempt status, it requires a conditional use permit from the city. And nobody that I know of was ever notified of that. We found that out after the fact. Specific to the project with the grading, very, very well informed with that. There was no EIR report with regards to that ravine that Michael was talking about. Very knowledgeable about wildlife, so he's a good resource for that. I worked with the city, with the building department earlier on that, and my understanding is when they were shut down that they were supposed to take all of the ingress soil out because that wasn't approved either. You got a pretty good idea what it looked like from Michael, and take it back to original grade and then start all over the process. That never happened, and mysteriously this project got completed. So I think a lot of us around here are concerned about transparency. There's been a lot going on this property for quite some time. And the one thing that is lacking here, and especially from the city, is transparency as it relates to this project. And we would like to see a lot more transparency from the city, from the Planning Commission, from the City Council, and from the Planning and the Building Department. I can't believe this thing is potentially approved by staff. I mean, this is a hotel going up in a single-family neighborhood. And nobody's even talked about, is it in fact a single-family home? It apparently is not. So I'm opposed to the project in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Rich Britton. Brito. Rich, are you here? Okay, Dim Lawson. I'm sorry, is it Dawn or? Dawn, sorry.
A lot of the issues that I would raise have already been raised by Mr. Good, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your last name. It's very obvious that this current resident pretty much ignores whatever the city code is, does whatever he wants. I saw several truck and trailer loads. I don't know how many, but I saw at least 8 or 9 go in there to that property. I've been assured that there's probably closer to 20 or 30. There's a lot of bad material in there, and it doesn't sound like you guys had any approval of it. Now he's asking to build a hotel. It's clear that he was running a meeting room. We sent him you guys a poster showing that before. He's running a B&B. It's clear that this is not what is being purported to be. And I think you did a very good job in looking at the plans that it's going to be more than just a single-family residence. So I definitely do not approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Romel? Is it Covina? Romel? Come on up.
Yes, good evening. Yeah, I am Romel Cipriano. This is going to be almost the 5th or 6th time that I've been here in court, regardless, by Moses Karimi, who owns the gas station Chevron, right on the corner off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're on the wrong item.
Wrong item?
Yeah, you had to wait till the next.
Oh, they call me Romel, that's right. Oh, okay.
Oops, called the wrong one.
So it's Sherry Ning, N-I-G-N. Sherry? Is Sherry here? Oh, okay.
So thank you for listening to our concerns. Mine are same as everybody else that you've heard. Doing research as well, I found several sites that this was listed as on Airbnb. There's probably about 10 different places that it's Skyscanner hotels, booking.com. I can't also help but to think that this is going to be some type of temple. Doing some research, there's one in the area already. It looks very temple-ish to me. Maybe they do a little bit of both, and if you give a donation, you don't have to claim that on your tax return. I don't know how that works, but I feel just as everybody else that something is awry here, and I think it needs to be looked at very carefully. Some of my concerns are, if this is approved, how do we monitor this? And if something happens now, we've got this big, huge thing here that we can't go back on. Let's see. Is the zoning changing? I wasn't even aware you could have that type of zoning here in our area in a residential, neighborhood. Who will check this afterwards? I know once these are built, that's it, and then we're left kind of to deal with the after effects. I think it's more square footage than it's legally allowed for that size of lot, which seems, over the top as well. So those are some of my concerns. They've never complied with anything they've been asked before, so I can't see why they would now. There's a bus going in and out. I manage a house across the street. I got a text message from my tenant saying that sometimes we see people standing on the street right after, or that looks like they're waiting for a ride after leaving the house. A couple of times my girls have thought that somebody's been scoping out our house, and it ends up being people from the home. She thinks that something else is being ran out of there currently because there is stuff going on and people loitering around. She has no idea what's going on. The other thing I wanted to mention is I live right around the corner, so I didn't get a letter. Luckily, I happened to manage the property across the street. That's how I found out about it. I'm just a stone throw away on Farview. These properties are larger properties, and that 300 square feet just doesn't seem adequate. I think if everyone would have gotten a letter that was even on Lark Hill that works into Spring Meadow and in that little neighborhood, this would have been packed. But the truth of the matter is it didn't get out. I just found out very, just a few days ago myself, and so I wasn't able to, get rid of all the neighbors. But that might be something in consideration for these larger properties because the notice only went to 25 homes. And for something of this scale, I think that should have been gotten to more of the neighbors. So anyway, thank you for listening. We appreciate our consideration. Mm-hmm.
You're the one who did this?
Yes. Well, I think that was. So that was today, and there's. I went on today and I don't know. I didn't see my letter being. I don't know if you want me to leave it. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. There were several, like I say, there's even a guest house rental. On booking.com, it says guest house rental. On Skyscanner Hotel, it says bed and breakfast. So I don't know if the young lady is cooking for her, for the bed and breakfast. I don't know, but there's probably about 7 sites that I found it on, in addition to, showing it as a monastery. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Neil?
Hi. Pretty much the peoples before me explained pretty much everything. There's only 2 things I'd like to address. I have all the records I'm living 1132, which is attached to this property. I'm right next to it. I have all the records, all the pictures, what he done before. So the first truck was loading at 2014, June 30th. There was like it's about 50 trucks. According to the other side of the neighbor, that's Todd, he said it's more than 100, but I thought it's not that much, not that many trucks. Those are 10-wheel tractors come in. And they just fill up the slope and make it like a 3-level property right now. So if you need all those records, all the pictures, I do have those. And when he does the construction, actually the owner does himself. I tried to tell him that, hey, you're not in this business, you shouldn't do this. And basically he just rent a Bobcat. Every day and night, weekend, he working on that. He done it by himself. It's pretty amazing. I told him that if you don't have the knowledge, don't do it. And he said he knows how to do it. So the first retaining wall on that proposal is not correct. That's not a retaining wall. That's a wall. It's built on top of the dirt. 2 years ago, he built a retaining wall. On the top level, he built a retaining wall 2 years ago, collapsed. 2 years ago, there was a raining week or for like 10 days. It's about like 80 feet of retaining wall collapse. I do have the pictures. And the second of that, the gentleman mentioned that about the septic tank on the Spring Meadow Drive. We are using septic tank. And the gentleman, the owner of 1140, a couple of years ago, when he do the construction, driving the Bobcat, he broke the main drain of his property. At that time, I took a picture, I took the video. You see the leaks, the water coming down. But luckily, that was at the center of his property. But he rerouted. It might be last year or early this year. He rerouted this drain 4-inch pipe to right on the property line between me and him. And the bad thing happens early this year, the pipe breaks. So all the dock water is in my yard. And I call the health department, the county health department, the city. They've been sending 2 teams to my house and, investigate and prove that water is dock water, pretty smell. And then it's still leaking as of today. So I had a talk to the owner several times in the past when he is in town, and he tried to fix that, but it's incomplete. It's still leaking today as of right now. So I smell that every night. It's like after 4 or 5 o'clock. So these are 2 things I like to address, and then I hope. Like the gentleman said, I hope everything is transparent. We've been filing so many complaints about this neighbor, and just nothing's been done. I met the inspector, I met the police officer. It seems like he still be able to, do what he likes to do. So this is my 2 points today. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
I have a question, Madam Chair, if I may ask the gentleman. Your name is Neil, sir? Okay. You said a couple of times you spoke with the owner.
Correct.
Okay. When was the last time you spoke to that owner?
A few months ago. When the drain pipe broken, I kind of saw him. I didn't. There was another lady up there. I saw he was talking with that lady as a Caucasian lady. I guess that's a B&B customer. Yes. So I kind of I call his name. I call the owner's name. He pretend not hear it until the lady says, "Oh, he seems like he's wanting to talk." He's pointing to me. It seems like I wanted to talk to the owner, and he turned back to me and says, "Oh, what can I do for you?" That was probably about 2-3 months ago. Yeah, that was the last time I saw him.
Is he a monk, or do you take him as a religious individual?
He's a monk. I mean, he told me he's a monk.
He's a monk.
Yeah, he acts like a monk. He dressed like a monk. I mean, yes.
Okay. And this is the only owner you are aware of this property over the.
When he moved in, that was pretty I can't remember exactly, what year he moved in, probably 2000, early 2010, somewhere. In the very beginning, I talked to him when he moved in, and then he was saying that the owner was his master, what you call a master, and not too long ago, once he moved in, he one time he said the master passed away. He didn't say that he took over the property. He just said, since then I saw him. He been lived there for years. Yes.
You mentioned that the drain line on his property when it was damaged. That's the drain line to the septic system, correct?
Correct.
And you had contacted County Public Health regarding the damage to the system because you were having overflow. Were there at times overflow issues or leak issues that were running onto your property?
No, he during the construction when he do the grading himself, I think accidentally he cut off he damaged his own the original drain, and then he probably fixed it, but just early this year or last year he do that grading again. I saw the bobcat back to the yard again, and I found out that he rerouted the drain to in between our property line, right on the property line actually. So early this year, then my niece find out that there is a leaking, and then I got a couple of dogs, and the dogs just start digging on the fence. When I see those leaking, the dock water coming to my property, I went there and I smelled it. I mean, obviously we can tell what is it, and then so I start chasing after him, go after him, but for a while he wasn't there. He wasn't there. So until a few times this year, I met him. I told him that you have to fix it. I can't live as this like this. And I call the health department. They respond twice. They came twice, and then they verified that leaking is coming from that property as dock water.
Okay, so to your knowledge, did the health department cite him for this problem so that he would be on notice to fix it?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? Sally Morales? Sally, are you with item number 2 or 3? Kamel?
Hello, I'm Camille Brunson, a neighbor at 1157 South Spring Meadow Drive. And at this point, I think most of my questions have been answered. I spent a good amount of time going over the literature, and a lot of my questions had to do with zoning. But my biggest concern was with the transparency of the project because it didn't appear to be a single-family home in a single-family area. So I thank you for your consideration, and I do oppose this project.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me? I endured all the trucks that went up and down the street dumping, so I can answer those questions.
Excuse me, when was that you endured all those trucks? About 4 or 5 years ago. You got to come back to the mic.
Come back to the microphone.
And then there were the lights at night when they were working. They had spotlights working at night when they were doing whatever they were doing. After I did make a phone call and other people made phone calls to try to determine what was going on and why all of this soil and all these trucks kept going up the street and dumping.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that's it, with the exception of Sally Morales. I'm not sure. Okay, go ahead. Come on.
Hi, my name is Shirley Lee, and I wasn't going to say too much, but I actually don't live on Spring Meadow. I live on Las Rosas, and actually my property backs up into this property. And so, you know, I was, when the property changed ownership, it was very evident because all of a sudden suspicious things started happening. There was a shack built on the corner of the lot, and it's like in the corner of where my pool equipment was. And it was like a, well, for lack of a better word, my pool man called it a Tijuana shack. And so I called the city, and I was really concerned because it was really ramshackle, you know. And they said, well, it's within the, you know, the dimensions or whatever. That's what the city said. And then later on, and what concerned me too was that shack was built in between the power poles. There are 3 power poles back there, and it was built inside. And I'm going, what if the wires come down? We're going to have a fire here in the corner. But anyway, what eventually happened is they rebuilt it, and it's more like a structure, and it looks better. But what's weird about it is that my friend and I would look over there and go, is there someone living in there? Because there'd be a light. And so here I'm hearing that this bed and breakfast thing, is that being used as a space to whatever? But anyway, it's not, it's just in the corner of the property, and I can see it. And then a while back, my neighbor and I have this situation where they built the cypress hedges, and they're really tall. They're going to get taller, and again, the power lines are right above it. And again, I worry about that. And so when Edison was doing their refurbishing of the power poles, many times they come over to my side to access the power poles that are on the other side. It's on the other side of my property. It's not on my property. And they'll say, well, we can't get in through the gates. We can't get access through Spring Meadow. And that's happened many, many times. So it's worrisome because, it just seems suspicious. And my neighbor that I had lived next door to me for 28 years, I wasn't aware of what was going on because I have a slope. Unless I go up to the slope and look down, the only thing I saw was the shack. I could see that, but I couldn't see the actual property. But my neighbor said to me, what do you think about the temple on the other side? I go, what temple? And this was quite a few years ago. And so I looked it up online. And again, I saw a listing for some type of religious organization. They have since taken that down, but it was listed. And there were actual pictures that I saw that I could see that it was, had, pictures of a Buddhist kind of religious organization. And so, interestingly enough, my neighbor has since moved, and he just moved down the street. So I'm going, he didn't want to probably say that he didn't want to own that property anymore because maybe from his vantage point, he had a lookout on the side of his property, and he actually could see the actual house. So, it's just concerning, and to have something that large that's going to be butted up against my property on the other side. That's what it looks like right now, and my neighbor. And so and also it just doesn't seem appropriate. What is our zoning? Our zoning is residential neighborhood, and it changes the nature and the character of our neighborhood. And so that's, I just wanted to air that and let you know what I see from my side, because I'm more on level with that property where I can actually see a car parked on the other side. And so once this is built, I think I'm going to be seeing a lot more activity right at my yard level, So anyway, thank you.
I have a question for you, Shirley, before
Yes.
In your comments, you mentioned when the ownership changed. Now, when was that, and how do you know ownership changed?
Well, ownership change, I looked it up too, but I noticed that what happened was there was a big tree, when I first moved in 1990, and it fell over, and then, and it just, then I thought, oh, wow, the tree fell. And then that shack appeared. And we're talking about quite a few years ago. The shack appeared, and then the cypress hedges. And then I would look, and it just was different. it looked different on the other side. But, I'm not one for going to the corner of my property and looking, but especially the cypress hedges. They're going to be huge, and Edison's going to have to come and trim it. And that they did come and check the backyard. And I said, but the hedges are on their side. And they go, well, we can't get in. So they had to come through my yard, and they trimmed it. But, those and every once in a while I'll see a person on the other side doing something, climbing up there. And that's when I noticed, too, when someone climbed up to the back there. Okay. Thank you.
I actually have a question, though. Since you lived there for 28 years, besides the shack that was done to the property, and the grading and all the other stuff, what about the main house?
The main house, when I go up to my slope, and it's behind my pool, I go up and I look down and I see the roof of the house.
Okay.
So there's another steep incline, but if they're going to grade, are they going to grade into that hillside to make the house? I don't know. I think I'm behind there, and I don't know if they would grade into that hillside to, be closer to my property line. So but the house is, down below.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Does anyone
Other
else have a
questions?
question?
Thank you.
Colleen Rosati? Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Colleen Rosati, elected City Treasurer, West Covina Beautiful President, and former Planning Commissioner from 2004-2010. I'm here tonight to speak on Item 2, Administrative Use Permit 17-15. While I don't live in this area, I have many friends that do, and I was recently contacted about their concern about this project. I'd like to commend the Commission on your due diligence and the great questions that you're asking, as well as the residents who have come out to speak tonight in reference to this. To echo what Tammy just said, many of my questions have already been asked, but I'd like to just throw out a few that maybe you haven't thought of. If this is currently a business and/or temple, is it still zoned residential, or does it need to be rezoned commercial? Has the Planning Commission asked if it will be an Airbnb? There was an ad that was posted. And as you all remember, there was an ordinance put through in 2018 that banned Airbnb from West Covina after a murder shooting of a young student who attended a flyer party at an Airbnb. That student happened to be one of my students that was 2 weeks away from graduating from West Covina High School. And if so, if this is supposed to be an Airbnb, will that ordinance then be changed? Residents currently are concerned with the amount of traffic that's going up and down that street. Apparently there's shuttles taking folks to different locations. There's a concern for people who walk along those roads being hit because it's quite windy. As a nonprofit organization, when owning a piece of property, and I think this may have been answered, if we could verify that, does the property owner pay property taxes? That's a question. I would like to stress to the Planning Commission, you're doing a great job. Please continue to do your due diligence on this project and be mindful of the surrounding neighbors in this area for their quality of life and their safety. My suggestion is to continue this project until you have more info. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the owners, anyone else, the owner, I guess no one else is against this project that would like to speak? If not, we'll have the owners to come back and rebut. So come on up.
So if I may, Madam Chair, members of the commission, members of the audience, I'd like to explain the process to you. This is a public hearing. That is the applicant. The applicant is afforded due process rights and is given an opportunity to address the comments that you have made tonight.
Really appreciate so many neighborhood concern about the project. So I think I'll transfer the information to the owner, and also city can consider. From what I'm understanding, the proposal is just for single family residence. All the previous violations, I don't know exactly for the grading. I heard that there's some permit issues later on for that kind of grading, but I'm not sure that. But for sure, we'll compliance with the code for the new development, and make sure in the future the lesson contractor or somebody else can do the project according to city code, and the building planning department will review that put conditional use permit to accommodate all the requirements. I think as a helper to the owner, so we will accept all the comments, try to persuade the owner, to feel very good concern about the neighborhood, noisy control, environmental, privacy, etc. So I just say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, if I could ask it. Come back up to the mic, sir. I'm confused. I'm trying to get a nexus from the previous owner to this owner. Oh. Who owns it right now? Who's the owner?
Who's the owner? Who's the owner?
Yeah, who's the owner? I mean, somebody's writing you a check,
I
right?
think Singhai. He's the owner.
So this guy here, Haix.
Yeah, I think so.
Haixin, Haixin is the owner. Where does he live?
He's in here, staying here. Right now, he's not here.
I know he's not here, but where does he reside?
He's in China right now.
He's in China.
Yeah.
And prior to him, who was the owner? Do you know? Because the speakers have referenced the situations going on for 5 or 6 years at this address, and I'm trying to connect the dots with the owners.
Okay.
In other words, you were taking no responsibility for the illegal grading that was done. You're saying that was done by the previous owner. Is that correct?
No, I didn't say that. Previous, I don't know who did that.
You don't know who did it? It just happened.
Yeah, I just heard that. So I heard that. Also, I heard that this owner, it's not previous owner. I don't think it's the previous owner.
Okay. Because
he's my friend. He complained a lot. I don't know his neighborhood as well. So I just newly joined this project. I think Xinhai, he's the owner.
Okay. Because I'm just looking at the staff report, and the project site has an outstanding code amendment case for unpermitted grading. It's outstanding. It has not been closed. It's not been resolved. And it says the property owner, who I guess is the gentleman in China, is working with the city to address the unpermitted grading. Is he working with the city to address the unpermitted?
Sure, he should be doing that.
He's doing that.
Need to do that. From my understanding, he's proposing the new development. The new development will accommodate all the violation about the grading. There should be a new grading because there's a lot of change on retaining wall, blah, blah. So then they will comply with the code by the new development in one time. No matter what kind of violation, we'll get it done for the new development. So that's I think about that's more efficiently than will solve all the problem. And also, when doing construction, don't try to, protect the neighborhood. Don't do it at nighttime. People complain about that. We're contrary that. We do a lot of projects. We're concerned about the neighborhood very much. Okay. We cannot do that.
The gentleman in China, Haixin.
Yeah.
How long has he owned the property? Do you know?
Oh, he said 2012, right?
2012. Thank you. And from whom did he purchase it? Do you know?
I don't know.
Trudeau's. Okay, wow, I got it right.
I don't know that. Sorry for that.
Okay, all right.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a question for staff. Can't we go to the Bureau of Records to find out who is the legal owner at this point in time? And you should be able to go back years who owned it previous to that time. You get a timetable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be title changes and things and certain dates that are recorded with the Bureau of Records or whatever the official name is.
We could, if I may, Commissioner, yes.
A lot of people might think I own the property, but I just paid somebody for it, but they never went through the legal motions to really be the legal owner. Have we tried to do that?
We can, Commissioner, yes, we can pull a title report to the property.
Yeah.
We have not done that at this point. But yes, we can certainly do that and find out when the current...
I think it would answer a lot of the questions.
I can give his email address to you if you need. No problem. I can find his email address to give to you.
Okay, so should we, do anyone else has questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question of follow-up on this matter of the other work that has occurred going back to 2014-15 of fill material being brought in and a parking lot being constructed. And so far, the only understanding that I have so far is that that work was done unpermitted and that any measure of rectification of that unpermitted work has not been met to this date. And there's nothing been done to correct any problems that resulted from doing that unpermitted fill work and construction of that parking lot. So do you say that you're not have any knowledge of the work that was done to bring in fill material and build that parking lot?
No, I don't know. I'm not aware of that. I just heard that he mentioned there's a grading permit. He said there's an outstanding and permitted, but I was told like there's a grading permit, so I don't know.
So the only person who would possibly know about that, and there certainly doesn't appear to be anybody here, would be the owner himself.
Yeah, I think so. He should be much clear. I'm not really not aware of that. Yeah, and as my friend mentioned, he do by himself, so that's why. Yeah, so I really don't know that. But no matter how, there's a geographic topo map. I think city has a topo map. So retrieve the topo map, we do the grading, send to the civil engineer. They'll accommodate that. If there's change, there's a backfill, we can do soil report to check that. Yeah, like recompaction, something like that. We can dealing with that in the new development. I don't think there's any problem, but engineer can handle that. Yeah.
There's still no answers as to what the work that occurred back in 2014-15 was ever done properly. And
yes, but I don't know how. So maybe just for the new development to accommodate that. This is just my thinking. So maybe citation for that. I don't know, but it's happened before. So before I know that.
I may say, when you buy the property, you buy the good and you buy the bad.
Yeah,
you buy the encumbrances that come with that property.
Yeah, but
that's now your owner. You now own that.
I know they should keep the natural grading and do everything under permit. That's true.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question, fellow commissioners?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Come on up.
It's with the applicant.
He's the architect. They're the owners.
Excuse me. this new proposal of house is going to be the primary residence house for the Honorable Xinghai monk. It's not a temple. Some people misunderstood it. Xinghai monk, he has 3 temples in this Los Angeles area. One is near Chinatown, one is in the San Bernardino County, the third one is in Avalon. That's the Catalina Island. So this is going to be his primary residence, not a temple. The square footage is well under the allowed 30%. It's only around 15, 16%. That's all. And to build this house, there's going to be lots of grading work. So whatever problem before on grading or leaking pipe or what, going to be corrected. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have? Okay, we'll have an open. I guess everyone's opposed. We're good.
Closing the public hearing.
Yes, we're going to close it, and then we'll open for commission discussions.
And commissioners, before you begin your discussion, I understand you've heard a lot of concerning statements regarding the previous code issues. As Commissioner Redholt read from the staff report, there are current pending and outstanding code enforcement cases relating to the grading and relating to the potential Airbnb listing, but those are not items before you tonight. As a reminder, the application before you tonight is for a large home, and the findings to make your determination are set forth in your staff report.
Thank you. Would you like to start? Oh, good.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
I'll,
I guess I'll go.
Okay, go ahead. You first.
Gee, I don't know where you want me to start. Every red flag's up. You violated every one. I see a hotel. I see an Airbnb. This guy bought the property. He's nonprofit, and he's running a business. I think he should have to forfeit his nonprofit status. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, what do you want me to say? I could never vote for this. I look at these blueprints, and every storage room and pantry, everything has a bathroom. What does that tell you? That you're going to have 22 rooms? That's all it tells me. And no, I could never vote for this. And I'll let it go at that. I don't know. You know what to say. Thank you.
Okay. Well, guess I'll go next. I guess my starting point on this project and the applicant is, and that I certainly understand our city attorney informing us that we're not making decisions on outstanding code enforcement issues, but those code enforcement issues are rather informative, and I still believe that there's more that needs to be looked into with regard to past activities that don't appear to have ever been resolved. And it speaks to the credibility of this applicant. So far, it doesn't look very good. And until some of these questions get answered, can we possibly know whether we're dealing with a project proposal that has any measure of integrity? So, add to the fact that it's a monstrous size of a so-called single-family residence, that just seems to defy logic. So I just don't see this moving forward at all.
Yeah, I've been on the planning commission for 12 years. I have never seen a project come before us like this before that's so convoluted that everything we ask, I don't know is the answer. And I don't know how we can move forward with this thing with all these questions that we don't have answers for. I don't know about the rest of the commissioners. I've tried to get up on that property just to see what it looks like, and I can't get up there because the gate's locked. So I don't know how we can proceed with any kind of answers until all these questions that are before us as far as code enforcement, who owns the property, who do we go to, who else do we have to get involved with this project to answer a lot of questions that are beyond our scope as far as land usage and soil and all that type of thing. So my feeling is I don't know how I can proceed on this thing. The way it is right now, I couldn't make an answer yes, no, or whatever until I get a lot more clear picture of what's going on. I just like to table this thing and until we get all this more answers coming back on us. But there are some things like if we keep asking who's the owner, I still think we can go to the Bureau of Records and see who's the owner and what years when the title transferred and was legally done, and find out who the legal owner is. So there's just a lot more work I think needs to be done by the staff at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like Commissioner Holtz, I've been on this commission for a long time. And this is a hot mess. I have never seen an R1 property that has this much ambiguity. That, we've been listening to testimony for a long time, and to be honest, we've gotten more information from the residents here than from the applicant. The applicant is, and maybe it's a language issue, maybe it's being evasive. I don't know. I don't want to label it. But I'm kind of in agreement with Commissioner Holtz. I want to be fair to the applicant, and I want to be fair to the neighbors. But, as we read all this and we listen to what everybody's saying, I'm still at square one. I do know that if this is R1, wow, this is R1. This is a toughie for R1. And, when we are presented with, let's just say it, evidence that indicates that the property is being advertised, charging so much per night with a bed and a breakfast and bathrooms and a parking lot and Wi-Fi, like I said before, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, squawks like a duck, it's a duck. And, I have concerns. We have an AUP. They're allowed up to 8,000 square feet. They're looking for 1,896 more. At this point, and I'm concerned about those retaining walls too, that, are blowing out the property. So, at this point, if there's a desire to continue it and bring it back to get more information, because I would like to know who is legally responsible for what's going on there. Because as I said, these illegal or unpermitted activities that occurred under a previous ownership, when you buy it, you buy that too. You bought that. You've got to make it right now. That's part of your deal when you buy. So, I'm looking to approve what was within our purview to do, which is 8,000 square feet. And anything else that's asked for that's over and above that, no, at this point. But, I think we need to get some answers here. I'm not comfortable. There's no way I can approve what's in front of me right now. I can't do that. And, that's not fair to them. And, I want to do right by the neighborhood. So, I'm looking for either, whatever you guys want to do, or maybe some advice from the city attorney, who's graciously joined us tonight. Thank you so much. That's my comments.
Thank you. With this particular project, normally when we receive a project like this, we do drive by the neighborhood and take a look at it. And it is true, this particular property is unique. We can only see the driveway, as fellow commissioners and our fellow commissioners, Don Holtz, had also mentioned. The only thing we actually saw when we drove by the street is really just the frontage of the street. We can't see anything else. So based on what our neighbor talk about, we can't verify for the five of us whether it's true or not true. I assume it is true. But we would like to maybe table this and bring it back when we get an opportunity to go take a look at the property and then see and resolve and ask all the questions that we have, whether who's the owner, now the grading issues that the neighbor seems to have a lot of issues with and saw that he or the prior owner did, we can actually retrofit that as, find out what was the actual dirt, 10, 60 years ago. Our GIS system is really good. It would tell you every 10 years what it looked like. So if he did something to that particular lot, we can have a comparison and find out what did he do and what needs to be done. Obviously, when you're building a new house, and this is completely hillside, nothing is flat about this lot. Like I said, when I drive by that particular property, the only thing I saw was just the road. So perhaps maybe we can schedule for our commissioners, give me one sec, our commissioners to perhaps go by, have a date, and then go take a look to see what we can see and how it's affecting the neighborhood for that particular house. And also, what does the grading affect? Because earlier the Zoom, Michael had mentioned that there was a ravine, but I don't see that from the street, just driving by at the street and at the driveway. So like our fellow commissioners, I'd like to see if we can perhaps reschedule this on a later date and find out some simple questions that the neighbors or our commissioners have. And in terms of ownerships, everyone in here, if we own a home, it's either under your name or under a trust of some sort. So that is very easy to find out who owns the property. I assure you, if it's not my house, I would not apply for an application to build a house this big. So I'm assuming, but again, it's based on our assumption that this is his house. We don't know, but that can't be found out through title. Grading, again, like I said, the GPS, I forgot what website or our government has the layout of the elevations of our land. Every 10 years, if anything changes or so, 5 or 10 years increment, they have that data. A surveyor or a soil, what do they call them, geologist, will be able to have an answer for that. So this way can answer all the neighbors' questions regarding the grading portion. Obviously, he done something. We just need to know, done it correctly so it doesn't affect the neighborhood and change the landscape too much. And also, there's other issues that's involved, even though we're not making decisions based on what he did, whether it's the prior or outstanding issues of not the land so much, but the current situations. Those can be taken care of as well. So if we were to reschedule this and come back and have a full answer, and from what I'm hearing, they're going through quite a few architects, it seems. These new teams are not fully aware of what was done the last 5 years or so. So someone needs to coordinate and have some answer. If we wanted to know, I don't know if we should, so know all that so that we have an answer so we can make an informed decisions about this particular home.
I was going to say that, you're talking about going and visiting this property. We would need their permission to go on their property and look at it. We can't just, we obviously, if we could have gotten in there, we would have done it. So, we're going to need, unless I'm wrong, we need their permission to go up there and take a look at it. We can't just walk up there and say, here we are. We need their permission.
At least we need to try.
Well,
to see
somebody's got to let us. Somebody's got to let us on their property to do that. I don't want to be trespassing on their property.
If I may, Commissioner Redholz, I think we'll work. I think there's consensus on the commission to continue the item. We will address, to the best of our ability, the questions that the commission has asked, as well as the community. We'll also schedule a time for commissioners to go up either individually or in groups of two, so the commissioners can get on site to look at the neighborhood. And we'll make sure that all 5 commissioners have the opportunity to do that before the item comes back.
And if I could make a suggestion to the applicant, and try and do it as nicely as possible, but if you could get a spokesperson that could answer our questions and maybe, interpret or, be able to address us, because we've all had a little bit of a problem understanding. And I want to be fair to you. I don't want to think you said something and I misheard. I want to make sure that I'm hearing what you're intending to say to us. In all fairness to you. I mean, I don't know, who could that be, but I would like to be able to completely understand your position. And,
Public hearing's closed.
But, I would appreciate that. I'm just saying that as what my suggestion would be, because, I want to understand, and, I want to understand your position, and I think I pretty much understand what the opposition's position is, and absent seeing the property, putting my shoes on the ground there, I did see the plans, and the plans are, for R1, it's a lot. Anyway, is there going to be a motion to continue, or is that what we're doing?
Before a motion, I just wanted to add something. Yes. Okay. Just want to add something to what you just said, Commissioner Redholz, is that in addition to getting someone who's a more effective spokesperson for the applicant. Also, that person, also whoever speaks again before the commission, hopefully has answers to some of these questions. A lot of what was posed today about things that have occurred on this property in the past 5-6 years, the answer, I don't know. I'm new on this project. It just, it isn't in my mind sufficient. There need to be answers. And I go back to this one issue I keep kind of harping on with the fill of the ravine and the building of the parking lot. I guess the reason I bring that up, because in my mind, I know from my own experience, work experience, is that that's no small issue. If what was done there was done as characterized by some of the residents that spoke to that, if that was done the way it was done, that was a highly illegal activity, and it's probably something that needs to be rectified at the owner's cost. And so that's something that that the spokesperson needs to come back and have answers about what happened, and be forthright in responding, because I just like others have said, we don't know if you're being evasive. It doesn't make us comfortable to feel like the applicant is trustworthy and being straightforward with us. So that is very important that these things get answered. And by the same token, I'm hoping we can also get staff to look into the same matter, and maybe with the building and safety people to see if that was a matter that was ever opened and ever resolved. And if it wasn't resolved, why not? Environmental damage was probably done. Contaminated materials were potentially placed. Drainage patterns altered. A lot of things could have happened in that part of it, that part of the property when that was done 5-6 years ago, and the owner is not being held accountable. So that's something that I want to see get addressed. It's very troublesome to even consider the thought of approving an application for this development when something like that could still be out there, hanging on out there and was never addressed. In my mind, I don't see the project going forward unless an issue like that's well understood and addressed. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, so do we have are we closing, and do we have a motion to continue?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, in conferring with staff, if you move to continue the item to a date uncertain, then staff will bring it back at a future date and will renotice it.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'll make the motion to continue the item to a date uncertain.
Could I make an amendment to that motion? That the noticing for when it does come back to the commission be extended by some additional distance than from the project site beyond 300 feet. Does anybody have any suggestion, so that it could reach more people? And I think the reason that it's important is because the nature of this community is such that 300 feet doesn't reach as many people as it does in other parts of the city. So can we do that?
Would you prefer 500 feet?
Let's say 600.
600, okay.
Double.
And also before you close the motion, would the Planning Commission like to add additional direction? As I heard tonight that the Planning Commission had problems with the size of the house being too large. Would the Planning Commission like to give the applicant direction for redesign to make the house smaller? Because that is a part of the AUP, and also direction regarding the retaining walls.
I actually like to take a look at the job site first to see what's going on before we can make any decisions on this particular lot. So that would be, go there first, and then from the next meeting, then we can make some decisions on that. See what we're dealing with.
I have a question first. Is there some sort of a quantitative limit on the amount of those retaining walls? Is there a standard?
The code doesn't
place so
place
just
limits
whatever
on
we
them.
decide it is on a particular project.
Just the height of it being 8 feet.
It's a building code issue, I believe.
And also it has to be at least 5 feet away from each wall.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying, as I said before, I'm looking at 8,000 square feet. Up to the AUP limit, 8,000 square feet. I mean, once we go out there, maybe, might change, but this to me is just it doesn't belong there in its current state. So I have the motion with the amended to what, 600 feet notice?
Yes.
Could you do since the properties are a lot bigger, can't we just do the surrounding streets? Can't be that many residents. To do 600 feet in that part of town,
even that's probably not enough.
Ain't gonna get very far.
Yeah, these lots are large, and
I mean,
aren't reaching many people.
I know you got Spring Meadow and Lark Hill, and then what is it? You have all those. They all need to be notified. So I think 600 feet is insufficient. Thank you.
Is it going back in the paper? Do we notice it in the paper? I mean, that covers everybody. Whoever reads the paper, which is, I think, 12 people.
Administrative use permit applications do not go in the newspaper.
They don't go in the newspaper.
Yes. But they are posted on the website. We can publish it in the newspaper if that's part of the.
I would like that.
Also, as far as notifying, like, the people that live on the street, if the planning commission would like to increase the radius to a higher amount than 600, that's fine as well. But we need a defined length or measurement.
So we could go above 600.
Sure. I mean, 600 is fine.
600? Okay. I mean, I want to cast a wider net, I want to, inform more people and get.
I like to say that particular area, I do live in that area, and the lot is huge. So even this particular lot, it is over an acre. I believe it's 1.5 acre. So if that is the case, we can increase it to 1,000 so we can get more neighborhood and inform them and let them know.
Good with that?
And also, I like to say that we have here as planning commissioners in that particular hillside in West Covina, we have approved home that are as small as 1,200 square foot for nowadays is very popular for the guest house or the ADU, all the way up to the hillside that they recently, for the last few years, the houses are, 5,000 up to 12,000. So that particular area, that general area is not unusual, that house that size. But the most important thing I think to see is that we need to be able to see that particular property because every property is unique. This particular one is a little bit unique in the fact that we can only see the driveway and the driveway has a gate. So normally when we go and observe before the planning commission meeting, we do drive by and take a look at the property. So what we can make decisions based on what we see and on also by all the neighbors that come out here to inform us what's going on as well. So I like to increase it to 1,000.
Okay, that's fine. So my motion is to continue this hearing to a date uncertain and to expand the notification to 1,000 feet.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Yes, we have a motion by Commissioner Redholz, second by Commissioner Holtz, to continue this item along with increasing, when it does come back, to increase the public hearing, mailed public hearing radius to 1,000 feet. And with that, Commissioner Holt, or Vice Chair Holtz?
Aye.
Commissioner Jaquez?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy? Aye. Commissioner Redholz?
Aye.
And Chair Hing?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman, before we go on to the next hearing, can we take a West Covina 5-minute break?
Hey.
The commission is then in recess?
Yeah.
And we'll reconvene at 9:25? Thank you.
Okay, we'll be resuming our public hearing. So we're going on to Code Amendment item number 2, which is Code Amendment number 20-07. It's affecting the citywide. And because the proposed code amendment consists of an amendment to Chapter 26 Zoning of West Covina Municipal Code to allow and regulate off-sale retail sales or off-site consumption of beer and wine as an accessory used to a service station. Joanne, would you be reporting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Commission Chair. Planning Commission and members of the public, the item before you was first initiated by the City Council on September 1st, 2020. The item has been noticed as a public hearing and was published in the newspaper and posted on the city's website. Since it's been less than a year since this item or this topic was last discussed, staff did notice the item as a code amendment, as a public hearing, and is presenting the previous draft to the Planning Commission that was last considered in October October 2019. The item that was considered in October 2019. The language of that draft code is exactly the same, but that code at the time it was not adopted by the City Council. I'll go ahead and go over the changes to sections 26-597, 664, and 685.103. So these sections deal with the land use issue, which is changes were made to the land use matrix that states that off-sale of alcohol at service stations would be allowed through a conditional use permit process. Currently, the land use matrix does not have this designation for service alcohol sales at service stations because it is currently not allowed. To delete the sale of alcoholic beverages as a prohibited use in service stations, and to clarify that the sale of alcohol for off-site consumptions at service stations would require a conditional use permit. And it also cross-references standards within section 26-685.103.3, which is a new section. So this is a section that would be added to the municipal code. It would require a conditional use permit for any service stations located in commercial or manufacturing zones that would like to sell beer and wine for off-site consumption. Again, only sales of beer and wine would be allowed. The entire site is required to comply with the current code standards in order to qualify for the conditional use permit application. This is subsection B of the same section. In subsection B defines some performance standards. So these 3 performance standards were added, which is requiring convenience stores of gasoline stations that would like to sell beer and wine to be at least or greater than 2,000 square feet in floor area, limiting the retail floor area to 10% of that space, of the convenience store space, and also the sales of beer in quantities fewer than 3 containers is prohibited. In addition, no alcoholic beverages shall be sold in units quantities less than the distributor's intended resale units. At the September 1st City Council meeting, Councilman Castellanos stated that his preference would be to eliminate the 2,000 square feet floor area threshold in this draft language to allow a more open competition among gas station owners. As with this proposed standard and other standards throughout the draft ordinance, the Planning Commission may choose to make no changes to, eliminate certain language, to revise or add on to the draft code. Please keep that in mind. And as a continuation, number 4 through 11, I'll go ahead and leave it up on the screen for a bit. But these are standards that the California Department of Alcoholic Beverages require for gasoline stations that sell alcohol. And we are basically taking their standards and reiterating it in the code. So as far as the current statistics or current information on off-sale alcohol licenses and gasoline stations in the city is concerned, staff did go through the California Department of Alcoholic Beverages website and queried information on number of off-site or off-sale licenses within West Covina that has been issued or is currently active. And we are noting that there are 45 places in the city that have active off-sale licenses in West Covina. 26 of these places are liquor stores, convenience stores, or mini-marts. 19 of these places are considered supermarkets, pharmacies, or department stores. Note that the pharmacies would be like CVS or Walgreens. As far as gasoline station with convenience stores are concerned, we did check with HDL, which is our business license consultant, to get figures for how many gasoline stations with convenience stores are in the city. There are 21 gasoline stations with convenience stores in West Covina that have business licenses, and these are all the gas stations within the city. Note that we do not have information on how many gasoline stations are greater than 2,000 square feet. The business license does not require convenience stores or gasoline stations with convenience stores to state the square footage of the convenience store itself. And also, I would also like to add that existing convenience stores that are smaller than 2,000 square feet can potentially be increased in size. Some gasoline stations have service space that they don't use often or are not getting used that they can expand into, or some gasoline stations also have room to add on a building as well. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending approval of Code Amendment number 20-07 to the City Council.
Thank you, Joanne. Does staff have any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, Joanne, I have a question. On condition number 3, the sale of beer in quantities fewer than 3 containers is prohibited, and no alcoholic beverage shall be sold in unit quantities less than the distributor's resale units. With that sentence, does that preclude them from selling what are known as 40s or tall boys that are big 40-ounce? You know, it's a single pack, it's a single bottle, but it's huge.
Yes.
Would that?
Yes.
Would preclude them. So
yes, it would have to be in 3 packs.
Was that?
At least 3 packs.
Okay, it has to be only in a multi-pack, 3 minimum. Okay. And there are 21 gas stations with convenience stores, so forth. And every single one of these, if they wanted to have the opportunity to sell beer, wine, they would have to go to ABC and apply for a license, correct?
That's correct. Under this proposed draft ordinance, they would have to first apply for a conditional use permit. The public hearing would be held, and the public hearing body would have to approve it first, and then that's when they can apply or obtain their license from ABC.
And every single one requires a CUP, a public hearing before this commission.
As it's drafted right now, yes, for this particular code amendment.
Thank you.
Yeah, on item 3, I've got somewhat of the same questions. I'm trying to figure out in my head the thing of quantities fewer than 3 containers. I don't know of any beer that I've seen that's less than a 6-pack. I don't know what the 3 containers mean. Is that a special beer or something?
No, come in 3 packs now.
Huh?
They do come in packaged in 3.
They come in 3 packs now.
They are? Okay.
Yeah.
But are they the same quantity in each each container?
Yes.
Okay. And then what about the jumbo dogs? Where does that come in?
Where?
You know, the big half quarts or whatever the hell like they are. What is that? How is that covered in here?
What covered? I'm sorry.
You know, in the dairies, they're allowed to sell the big single cans of, I don't know how big they are.
Yeah, they're 40s. That would not be, the dairies to, you know, I mean, I hate to get, it's really too early to even get a discussion, but a dairy is not a gas station.
Well, I know that, but I mean,
So it's a different set of, it's a different set of
gas
circumstances.
station, they cannot sell the 40s?
Yes, dairies are.
Okay. Okay.
Does anyone else has a question? Okay, so we're going to open this up to public hearing. Anyone for?
You have cards for people?
Yeah. Okay.
She has cards.
Would you like to come out and can you please fill a card too?
I've already put a card in.
I think he's the one you called for the last one.
Yeah,
Rich? Are you Rich?
Myself and Lisa, Sally Morales were on the second agenda.
Okay. So your name is?
Rich Brito?
Got it. It's right here.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I'd just like to say I don't have any issues that I could see with this particular permit. The owner is a good owner. I've known him for a few years now. I've seen the business. They've been very consistent. I think the pluses for this are that you're basically going to expand his business, which is basically revenue increasing for the city along with taxes. Of course, there's always a cost, but I don't think that this is the kind of cost that would be under a microscope, that you would have to look at the individual situation. Since you already have numerous stores in the area, I think they're all doing the same. You've clarified that there's, under your CUP, that it's nothing going to be sold to anything under than a 3-pack minimum. And also that there is pluses for the local community as far as possible employment. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
We have Kim Sudif. Thank you.
It's a public hearing. Are you doing those in favor first and then those opposed?
Yes, but we don't have in favor. Does anyone else is in favor of this project? Sally? She didn't say.
You need to call them up in favor.
I didn't have a card for Sally. Hi, thank you.
I'm Sally Morales. I'm just here to support the application for the license to sell beer and wine. And I agree with Rich that I know the owner too as well for about 3 years now. So they're good people, and so I'm just here to support it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for the code amendment change?
He's the one that spoke last time.
Okay.
Second time's the charm.
I don't see any inconvenience really, wine can have a beer and wine sell it at the gas station. I don't see, most of the school that I see, really somewhere around a mile, maybe 800 feet away from that. To me, it's convenient at a certain point because it's Moses Karima, he's the owner. He's the owner really of the gas station plus auto repair. And we do have a lot of facility, really help out the community, really service the cars and give you some coupon, for a free car wash. At that moment, really, I use it when I get in, get a coffee, grab a coffee. I can grab a beer, take it home. It's not a point me filled out car gas and then have a beer, drink it. No, it's impossible. Especially we do have cameras up there. Nobody can do that. And really, I don't see any inconvenient why can have a license, to sell beer. Basically, it's all sealed. People start to take it off and put it in a trunk and leave. Nobody stays around and drink it around there. you know, to me it's convenient because it's if I want to buy a beer or wine, really, I gotta drive it a mile and a half, and to the supermarket or maybe Ralph or maybe Walmart. It takes a little while being in line, and that is about 45. But this is quick for me. Pump out gas and grab it and go. That's what I go a favor to that, Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else is for? Okay, so this is against Kim.
Apologize up front. My brain is still scrambled from the other issue. I have so many questions, and I don't live anywhere near there. From my understanding, we're here because a council member has changed his mind on this because he's maybe gotten a donation. So I'm wondering if we all pool together, we could get him to change his vote with an extra $1. This is the third time I've been before this against. We have enough places to buy booze. We have enough beer and wine. So from my house, there's 2 liquor stores, 2 7-Elevens, a grocery store, and a CVS. That's all within 3 blocks each direction. I don't see the problem of a hard time finding it. And if I kept going to my job, my boss, every year with the same bad idea, I wouldn't have a job anymore. I don't know why we have to keep coming back to this. It's a good ordinance, I believe, for West Covina. I'm sure some of you have raised children, and how many times you've been greeted with, I want, and at some point you just say no. And I wish we could get there. And it would be nice if at some point we realize that no means no. And I had a sign up when I worked in the hardware industry that every complaint you got, there were 10 people who didn't write. So we may be the same 5 or 6 people here, but add another 45 at least to that who don't write against this. So I'm still not in favor. And I do have a question on your list about a payphone that cannot be outside, some place that sells beer and wine. I don't understand that one. That's just curious.
Is there a payphone left in the city?
I don't know, but it can't be there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Frederick Sykes?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, city staff, members of the audience. I am Frederick Sykes, retired LA County Deputy Sheriff, 42-year resident, and former mayor of this city. I am concerned, upset, and disappointed. I'm here tonight because the majority of the people who appointed you, City Council members Johnson, Castellanos, Shoemaker, have inferred that you should support them in abolishing the no alcohol sold in gas stations law. Well, too many bad decisions by our West Covina City Council have put the residents in a bad situation. We are in a city that is now virtually bankrupt, and we have very, very few services and staff that are left from what we had 20 years ago. This law has been in place for more than 4 decades. There have been numerous times that the residents had to fight for this law, and we still have this law because the gas station owners have not been able to take it from us. This law is part of our public safety, and it is a standard of living for us. This law makes sense. It has a visual impact, and it makes a statement of do not drink and drive. And when the gas station owners forced the city to defend itself and its standards, we had to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and that court agreed with us. As a city, we have the right and the duty to protect our community and our standard of living. The possibility that all 21 gas stations can be added to the current situation is oversaturation. This will put an excessive amount of places to buy alcohol in our city. And just because every city around us is doing this doesn't make us have to follow their lead. Before you add 21 gas stations, please consider what we already have in the way of 150. That's more than 150 alcohol outlets. We have liquor stores, grocery, drug, restaurants, bars, convenience stores, dairies, and we've recently added our movie theaters. And this extends from one end to the other of our 17 square miles city. Removing this law will not improve the city and was not requested by the residents. It appears to be related to greed, campaign contributions, and personal gain. Gas stations owners are the seminal force for this, and most of them do not live in our city. Their focus is profit, not public safety, not the standard of living and the quality of life. We should retain as much local control as we can. We have the state legislatures that are taking away the ability to retain our single-family residential communities. And now we also have the federal government that has devastated our local cell tower laws. And we also have our city officials that are now ganging on us and trying to give away our local control. I ask you to please visit places like Compton, East LA, and other communities where they are working to reduce alcohol sales outlets, places where I used to live and work as a police officer. Greater availability and accessibility of alcohol is linked with the excessive alcohol drinking. Increasing alcohol outlets sends the wrong message to our community, and abolishing this law will facilitate and accelerate more social problems, crime, and decay. We have less than 90 sworn police, and we should have over 140. And with our current social and criminal challenges, please do not add to their already overburdened workload. Thank you.
Mr. Sykes, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
You've referenced, I think it's the second time you've referenced a Supreme Court case.
Yes.
You say we lost?
They lost. The people who wanted, when they started with the idea of convenience stores to be put in gas stations, they took their case all the way to the Supreme Court. And at that level, it was given a ruling that is a part of what makes West Covina West Covina. That is part of our standard of living here. That's why they couldn't take it. So all the cities that have that before they had the law in place, before they started the idea, before they came with the idea. That's why I mentioned the 40 years ago, because their convenience store ideas, the gas station, came in after that.
Okay. So
that's why we're allowed to keep it.
The United States Supreme Court or California Supreme Court?
I believe it's the U.S. Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court. And do you know what year this was? The year?
The year of the ruling?
Yeah.
I don't have the exact date.
And West Covina,
I know that we've had it since 1977.
Was West Covina a party of this case? Were we a participant?
I haven't read who all was involved. All I know is that we were allowed to keep it when only because we had it before. It was grandfathered to our city. because we had it before they came up with the idea. That's what allowed us to hang in there when other cities lost it. When they started hearing this, there were other cities that wanted to be like us, to prohibit it, but they weren't allowed to add it after the fact of when they started saying we want to sell gas and alcohol in the same place.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Remember, this is ancient history. So it's not easy to look up. I'm sure
We're old, Fred. We're old. You know?
I'm sure we'll find somebody that has it, but I don't have the exact history. Thank you.
Next is Steve Bennett.
Thanks, Mark, for cleaning the thing. Said I'd always thank the people who would do that. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Steve Bennett, a longtime resident of the city of West Covina. First, I'm going to start off. I'm going to give you guys a joke. What is a broken boomerang? It's a stick. I say that joke because for a lot of you who've attended, thank you for the rim shot, a lot of those who have attended council meetings in years past, there was a gentleman who used to come up and speak about this very topic on a regular basis. And his name was Forrest Wilkins. And Forrest passed away in March of this year, and for years, Forrest would fight this battle. He passed a petition around, collected hundreds of signatures. Forrest was a former school board member at West Covina Unified School Board, and very active in our community, former motorcycle officer for LAPD, longtime friend of my family and I know some others as well. And his legacy is probably more than this particular topic, but this topic is definitely tied to Forrest Wilkins for years. If he were alive now, he would be speaking to you guys along with the rest of us. As other people have pointed out, this ordinance has been a part of our city for years, decades. And there's only one person who keeps asking for this to be changed. It's one business owner. One. Applies every couple of years, and now he's convinced a council person to change his vote after him supporting that same petition that Forrest Wilkins circulated and he signed and got in front of the council as a council member and said he would never change his vote. Well, whether it was related to campaign contributions or not, I'm going to let him answer the integrity of that. That's up to him. But the honest answer is it's still one business owner. And he's got supporters, which is fine, probably employees and friends, but it's one business owner. We're looking at 21 gas stations that are going to make a change possibly in the city. If we go based on your last recommendations, it's not 21. It was only, about 7 or 8, I think it was, based on the last recommendations. Now you've got a council person also asking to remove the 2,000 square foot limit to increase the ability for more businesses. Let's talk about business for a second. I brought this up at the council meeting, and maybe you guys haven't heard, but this isn't going to generate a windfall of cash for our city. If you take an estimated $10,000 per business per month and multiply that out for every business monthly per year, total for 8 businesses, which we talked about before, was less than $10,000 in tax revenue to this city. We spent more than that on staff time, the multiple times we brought this back. Now we're looking at 21 businesses. So let's math that out. We're talking just a little more than $20,000 in tax revenue. $20,000 is not going to fix our financial situation in this city. In fact, it probably isn't going to pay for the staff time that we've spent to bring this back to you guys this time or the previous time. We're wasting more money in staff effort because of one business owner than what we waste on other topics in this city. We spent 2 hours talking about a landowner who we don't even know who's the owner, doing things that's completely against the code, and all we can do is continue the item. But tonight, one business owner wants us to change our ordinance that we've had for 40 years, where we don't even know if he's going to actually increase his sales. It's a possibility that money just shifts from one business to another, which means there's a net gain of 0 for the city of West Covina. So again, this is about one business owner. That's all this is. One business owner wanting a change for something that the residents of 100,000 have had for 40 years and don't want it to go away. So I'm running for council for District 3, and as you guys know, there's a election this November, about 40 some days away. I ask you guys to do us a favor as residents and as possible future council members. I'm going to ask you to continue this. You guys want to do what's right for the city. Let's find out if Mr. Johnson's correct and all the people that he says in his district are in favor of this, vote for him. Because to be honest with you, if he doesn't get elected, there's no vote on the city council to continue this on. We're 40 days away from an election. Let's look at this from an honest perspective. You can table this, you can continue it, and bring it back after the election and a new council is seated. And let's determine if that is the way this needs to go. Because if two of the yes votes on this council are up for election, this election. That's my request to you guys as a resident. I appreciate your time. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. And we have Colleen next.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening again. Colleen Rosati, elected city treasurer, former planning commissioner. I thought I would just tap on this little subject since I'm already here. I can recall this subject coming up when I was on the planning commission. I think it came up a couple times and it died profusely. For some reason, I have a visual of having somebody pull into a gas station, getting gas, buying a 12-pack, getting in the car, and driving away. It doesn't sit well with me. It concerns me. I don't think, and it was said earlier, that this is going to generate as much tax money as proposed. I don't think it's going to close the deficit that we may have. I think it's just going to risk lives and be intrusive on the community. So my position on this is to deny it once again. Every couple years it rears its ugly head. Somebody has an idea that we need to have alcohol with gas stations. Please enforce the ordinance that is already in place. Keep the residents safe. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, I don't have anyone else on the, okay, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Robert Torres. I'm here to speak against this ordinance. However, I know that as a planning commission, I'm not really sure how the order of operations would go. But either way, I think the council has authority to call it back. So I'm assuming that you're going to have to make some sort of recommendation, and the council eventually is going to have to make their decision. So with that in mind, from a planning perspective, the biggest change is that they want to remove the square footage requirement. And every discussion prior to this involved that condition. And many of you up here actually referenced that as something that was good, to limit the amount. So now that we're looking at 21 as opposed to what we had before, which was around 4, that's like a 400% increase on the potential alcohol sale outlets. So that's huge. So from a planning perspective, I think you guys need to look at that closely. And it's true that there are CUPs required, but since you're a planning body, I think you need to look long term and not do it piecemeal. Because at some point we had a few liquor stores and a few convenience stores. Now we have 45 outlets and a total of 100 and something. So slowly it'll creep up, and there'll be a lot to look at if we do it piecemeal and CUP by CUP. I think we need to look at it now holistically. So the public safety issues I was asking for, I think we should have a report from our police chief. He makes a solid recommendation, yes or nay. And then if he does say yes, then what are his recommendations for conditions? We still haven't seen that. We had a two-paragraph memo from the previous police chief that had no detail at all with regards to recommendations, any thoughtful analysis, any analysis of crime data, calls for service, nothing. So we need a police chief report. So I really urge you to ask for that tonight. Also look at the health impacts. We can request the Department of Public Health to look at this and make a recommendation. And lastly, for the finance director to look at whether the revenue is actually going to come in and do a cost-benefit analysis for the public safety costs versus how much we're going to get in revenue. So I did a public records request, and the 45 alcohol outlets we have, which are essentially convenience stores and liquor stores, we have about 45. In the last 5 years, there was around 15,000 calls for service to these 45 sites over the last 5 years. So that equates to about 70 calls per year for each of these convenience stores. So if you estimate, let's say a cop shows up, let's say that's $500 in taxpayer money, that's $35,000 a year we're spending to regulate these sites. $35,000, and that's with all the 45 sites. If you pick out just the convenience stores, it jumps to $42,000 a year we're spending on police calls just to go and address all these issues. And ironically, Commissioner Redholz mentioned the tall boys and the liquor stores and all these restrictions. If you look at the data, the convenience stores like 7-Eleven, they actually have higher calls for service than the liquor stores. They have more crime. They have more incidents. So that was a surprise to me. So some of the incidents include theft, burglary, shootings, overdoses, reckless driving, DUIs, unsupervised minors, suicide attempts, unconscious individuals on the floor, public intoxication, drinking on site, assault, battery, fights, knife possession, gun possession, rescues of unresponsive individuals, transient activity, panhandling, and the list goes on. So these are all documented incidences that have happened at convenience stores, not necessarily even liquor stores. So we really need to look at the financial revenue coming in, and we need to look at the public safety costs and the public health costs and see if it's worth that. And that's why I'm asking for that report from the police chief, from the finance director, and also on public health. But if you move forward, I don't have enough time to go into the details, but there's something called a deemed ordinance, a deemed approved ordinance that you should look at. That's essentially regulating all the liquor stores and convenience stores out there that don't have CUPs. Because if we do allow 21 more, eventually we're going to have an over-concentration. So we really need to look at this holistically, not just the 21 gas stations, but all 45 liquor stores and convenience stores, and see if we could regulate those retroactively. So lastly, I know that there's been some reports given, but like I said earlier, I don't think that's enough. So please look into all those reports and do your due diligence. Thank you.
Could you stay at the dais for a question? You did some research there on the number of calls to convenience stores that police had made, and I guess there was a particular average that you calced out of the number of calls to per convenience store. What was that number again?
70 per year.
Per convenience store, it was 70 per year. But the problem with trying to do estimates on those sorts of data is that they include everything. They include like the markets, the dairies, the liquor stores, the convenience stores, and it's very, like Herb said,
different types of stores.
Yeah, it varies at each site. But what was interesting is when I isolated the convenience stores, those were actually even worse. The data came out worse. So there was a higher cost and more calls for service at those compared to the liquor stores. And I sent an email late today, and it actually has all the data.
That's okay. That's something I might want to understand better is then of the 70 calls per year to these various types of stores, the plurality of the calls for service were at the convenience store types?
Yeah, so the 70 calls per year is an average of all the 45. But if you look at just convenience stores, it's actually higher than 70. I didn't have the time to work that number out, but there's more calls for service to convenience stores because, like I said earlier, for some reason, the data was showing the liquor stores had a lower call for service. They didn't have as many issues. That could be attributed to many things. Maybe the liquor store owners don't care and they don't call.
Is that out of the 70 average?
Yeah.
Where it's out of that 70 average, say, 20 were to convenience stores, just to use a number, and then the lesser numbers for all the other categories?
Yes and no. Like dairies was higher. Dairies was higher, and one of the dairies actually had 1,600 calls over the 5 years. They had 1,600 calls to one dairy, and just the cost there alone is tremendous. So the best I could do in the short time I had was come up with those numbers, but I actually asked for the numbers for gas stations too. But unfortunately, I put the request in too late, so I wasn't able to get the public records for today. But I wanted to kind of compare the gas stations now and see like what the difference in crime was there. But again, I'm not a professional. I'm not a public peace officer, police officer. So I did my best, but I really think that the police should actually look at this from this approach, but obviously in an official manner, way more in depth. Look at crime statistics. Look at what's going on, because just what I got today is just to me it was outrageous, and I know that I failed to do this in the past, so I apologize for that because I was trying to do my best to provide data, but the onus, to me, it's hard for the onus to be put on the residents. I think that as public servants, the commission and the city council really need to look out for us and do their due diligence to prove that it's safe for the residents. And right now, all we have was commentary that discussions were had with other public officials, and they said there was no issue. And a two-paragraph memo from the chief. Right. And to me, that's just not sufficient. I just think that a lot more needs to be done. And if for some reason the chief comes up here and says, I recommend it, remove the law, you know what? That's it. That's what I'll go with, because he's our chief. He knows best. He has tons more experience than I do. So that's all I'm asking for an actual comprehensive report to look at the ramifications of removing this law from the city.
Let me finish here first. And not to suggest that you should be obligated to do any more, research work and break down numbers, but with what you were able to ascertain from these numbers, and that you had a certain number of service calls to convenience stores as being sort of the plurality amongst those categories, but I guess the exception of dairies, which are much smaller in number. So set that aside as an anomaly for whatever it's worth. Then comes the question, because you did start to list the reasons for those calls, and included in what you listed were calls to deal with DUIs or drinking on the premises, but there's maybe 2 or 3 that were alcohol related amongst a larger list of the reasons for the service calls. So it seems that that's probably boiling down the issue to what's going on with a relationship between service calls to those types of establishments where alcohol was involved. And so as much as that might be the plurality of the average of 70 calls, per year to the establishments like that, it seems like it needs to be broken down even further. 70 is just sort of a generalized number that doesn't, focus in on the more critical issue of, where it's alcohol related. So,
Right,
yeah, I'm not suggesting that you should have to, take that further and do the work. You make a very, good argument that it's an issue to be dealt with as, on the city's end of things, as public servants. That would be kind of the question, I think, if you were to ask that the city look into it and that the police department and the chief look into it, that it be broken down to that question, and then how is that, and then to also take it to another level of looking at establishments in the region in cities similar to ours, and I think it's fair to say that some of our neighboring cities are by nature and demographic are very similar to West Covina, some of our neighboring cities, and that where they do have alcohol sales at gas stations, that the same analysis could be applied there. And then we might see, what the correlation is, if not causation of sales of alcohol at gas stations. So I think you're partly way there, but I think it's kind of a long ways to go still, and that's probably what I'm assuming that's what you're asking to have.
Well, yeah, if a decision's made that for some reason our police aren't willing to do that for us, if they are not willing to look at it in detail and provide a report, I definitely can do that. I just, like I said, the time involved is kind of, it's a tremendous amount of time, and that's probably the reason that nobody here in the city has even done it, because it takes a lot of work. But if that's the direction the commission's heading, I don't, I have no problem doing that. I could do it. I just need to know that it won't be in vain, because a lot of the times I've done stuff and it's just been ignored.
Yeah,
So.
but you did indicate that you would like to see the police department and the chief to produce some analysis, or someone to produce some analysis of this question, in order to validate, what you believe is a concern with the change in this ordinance. And so, I mean, if that were to be done and it doesn't, just hypothetically, if it doesn't, seem to quantitatively support your position, I mean,
Yeah,
assume then you
I'm
would
left.
accept the results of that analysis.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't oppose the police chief. I don't
Of
think
course.
that I'm an expert at all. So I'm doing what I can as a layman. But in my opinion, I wouldn't see how he could support that, because in general, I think that adding 21 sites, even over a span of 20 years, or how, who knows how long it's going to take, it generally degrades the community, just based on what we're talking about today. The calls for service at these sites are tremendously high. They take a lot of resources. The one I looked at in detail was the one on Merced and Sunset. That's right by the closest to West Covina High School. And that one had actually higher calls for service. And that one actually had some of the worst things happen there. And that's right next to the two gas stations at Sunset and I think it's Merced.
What type of store is that? I'm trying to think. Merced and Sunset.
One Merced, right?
Sunset and Merced, you got the Arco, and you got 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
It's probably the southern.
Oh, they're by Edgewood.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the one I referenced, shootings, those were there on the calls for service that I emailed you guys. There's been shootings there. There's been several unconscious people on the floor.
And all these, these are, certainly serious incidents, but, is there even, to start with, a correlation to
Right,
all
yeah.
being sold there?
Right.
So, to call out those incidents doesn't necessarily make it a correlation to alcohol sales.
Right, yeah.
Sell alcohol. Where were these calls at? The gas station?
No. All of our existing alcohol outlets, off-sale alcohol outlets.
Oh, not gas stations.
No. Like I said, I requested the gas stations, but the public records didn't come in time so I didn't get to look at that. But I wanted to kind of compare the two. But the public records takes a certain amount of time, so I couldn't get them in time for the commission meeting. But
You mentioned the dairy. We don't- Can you hear me? Better? Okay. So you mentioned the dairies. The one dairy had 1,600 calls? I think we only have 2 dairies in
5
this.
years, I think that was.
No, I think we only have 2 dairies in the city. Do we have 3? Where's there's one on Azusa, Roland?
Francisquito, Roland, and Vine.
Francisquito, what?
Francisquito and Willow, I think.
There's no dairy there. Oh, yeah. You're right. There is, next to the old Winchells. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
My bad. Okay.
Yeah, so, but that's an anomaly, I think, because what I did when I tried to look at the service station, the comparison of the service stations, I took out only the ones that were convenience stores. So I took out liquor stores, I took out grocery stores, and I took out dairies.
Okay,
And
so my point I was going to make was, I know the dairy over there on Azusa and Roland, that's been homeless heaven for years. I mean, years. So are these calls for the homeless? Because we have a tremendous homeless problem.
Yeah, they were a mix. They list them as transients on there. But yeah, on almost every liquor store and every convenience store, there was a good amount of transients. But it was mixed in with all those others: burglaries, shootings, overdoses. There was a host of things. But on every single one, there was transients at least a dozen times on every single one.
Just add really quickly, the dairy at Azusa and Roland, this commission denied their request to sell hard liquor. They sell beer and wine there.
Right.
They
Which
came
I-
forward to us,
That was good.
wanted to sell hard liquor, and we told them no.
Right.
So, that's why I'm saying each one has a CUP that's going to come in front of us for a public hearing, and we're going to hear from people. So I appreciate your input, Robert. You're always prepared, and you always give us a thorough report, and I appreciate that.
And the funny thing is that we all, I think you and I, all of us, thought that Type 21 liquor licenses generally were, I guess, worse or unsafe. But the data I got, for some reason, convenience stores are far worse. Far more crimes happen, far more incidents happen. So who knew? But, both of them sell alcohol.
Again, to be boiled down further to correlation to alcohol, and I'm willing to make that request as part of what we decide here to have that looked into further with in terms of analysis of data.
Yeah, I would appreciate it.
We're going to continue this discussion, of course. But I do also want to point out that there's still something to be said about another layer of oversight on the issue that doesn't rest with the city, and it rests with the state in terms of the licensing from the state to sell alcohol, and that the state has its own standards in terms of which I'm admittedly not familiar with, but they have their own standards in terms of viewing where the applicant is looking to sell alcohol and the concentration of establishments that sell it. I'd be curious to know how that would.
Well, yeah, and if you don't mind, I am familiar with that. I'm very familiar with that.
Let's hear what you know.
But from what I understand, ABC puts a lot of onus on the public local governing body. So even if it's in an overconcentrated high crime area, if they apply to ABC and they're in a high crime overconcentrated area, all ABC asks is that they need approval from the local body. So then they come here, they get the approval, and ABC's happy. So regardless of where they are and how many alcohol outlets are in there, even if there's a moratorium in the city, the ABC has a list. It's a moratorium list, and that allows no alcohol sales in that city, no permits to be issued, unless a finding of convenience is given by the public body. So essentially what ABC's done, it's because they got a hit in the 90s, because ABC used to regulate everything. They said, you know what? We're going to let the local cities decide. So they put the onus on the cities, and they said, you guys approve your own, because we're not going to get, yelled at for approving all these liquor stores and convenience stores. So all the public agency needs to do is find a finding of convenience, and ABC is happy. So,
Very, very helpful.
thank you.
Chair, if I may, I just wanted to point out for the public record that we did receive one letter or email from Jerry Poltras regarding this item, and it was provided to the Planning Commission.
I don't think we get that.
So it says, according to statements made by the assistant manager at the last council meeting, there is a potential to increase alcohol licenses 20-something. That's a lot of liquor licenses to add to our city. Some area of the city already have a high concentration of alcohol license right now. High concentrations of alcohol licenses does not have implications in neighborhoods that cannot be easily undone. To increase licenses in those areas should be done with resident input and caution. I am forwarding you a copy of an email I sent Councilman Johnson that explains my view in more detail. In the meantime, I ask that the Planning Commission and by inference, the City Council table this item until the pandemic is over and residents can participate in a normal manner. Thank you. Jerry Poltras.
Thank you. Okay, is that our last speakers for tonight? If it is, then we'll just close public hearing and we open for discussion among
Yeah, I'm
commissioners.
ready for discussion if you would like.
Okay.
First, I just want to say one thing. I've known Lloyd Johnson for over 25 years. And, he is a man of integrity at the highest level. And I frankly resent, as his friend for a quarter of a century, the implication that for a couple $100 he could be bought. That's bunk. So I feel better. The other thing is, this hearing tonight is at the request of the City Council. We all know that. This Planning Commission dealt with this, and we've dealt with this over the years many, many times. Last time in October, went to the City Council. Now, at their request, it's back in front of us. And the proposed code amendment is to allow and regulate off-sale. And if you look at the whereases, I'm going to say one thing. To me, it's not about the revenue, and it's never been about the revenue. It's quite obvious it ain't going to generate a whole lot of revenue. Plain and simple, it is not. And if you look at the resolution itself, you won't find the word revenue anywhere. It doesn't come into play. But what is there on whereas number 3, and number 3 under that, it is necessary to revise the standards in order to allow service station convenience stores to fairly compete with other small market and convenience stores which are allowed to sell alcohol for off-site consumption. There it is there. Those in opposition are the ones that keep referring to revenue and the lack thereof. It's not about revenue. It's about fairness. And we talk about, it's interesting, we talk about there's going to be 21 liquor stores, beer stores, whatever, like a switch, and you now have 21 more convenience stores selling liquor, beer, and wine. And at the same time, the argument was made tonight that there's only one guy. We're doing this for one guy. Yet there's 21 going to happen overnight, but there's only one guy. I find that interesting. And I also find it interesting that this is a public hearing. We've dealt with this, as we all know, many, many times. Where are the other 20 people? Where are they? It is, in my view, it costs money to bring it, to get the license. It costs money to buy the inventory, to stock it, to regulate it, to sell it, promote it in the store, and all that. Not all of them are going to want to do that. There's a cost involved here. Some of them are very happy to sell whatever they're selling in their little, convenience store. It also costs money to take an 800 square foot store, make it a 1,600, or a 1,000, make it a 2,000. It costs money to do that. And I'm going to tell you right now, to alleviate some of your concerns, there's no way from my seat I'm going to vote to make it less than 2,000 square feet. Since this was brought up many years ago, and I was on this commission, Holst was on the commission, we came up with that barrier, that barometer at 2,000 square feet. For the simple reason we wanted to have some control. We didn't want to have, there's some service stations that have like a 3x5 kiosk. We don't want to have them put a barrel and throw ice and beers in there. No. And the other thing, that I've brought this up before when this comes up. You want to talk about this particular retailer or the others in the city, most of them have been here for decades, and they run good, clean, legal businesses. To think that because you allow them to take a small percentage of their floor space or their refrigerator and put beer in there, to think that all of a sudden they're going to let their business go to hell just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. They're not going to allow people to congregate and hang around the outside and as we allude, the great late Forrest Wilkins was mentioned, and he was a strong advocate for this. But, scare tactics. Women are going to be accosted. Children are going to be molested. It's just going to turn into Armageddon overnight because we're allowing these legal businesses to sell a legal product. It doesn't make sense. And, we did have a report from the police department the last time. I know we have a different police chief. I've talked to other electeds in other cities close to us and some a little farther from us that have allowed this for years. Is it a problem? It is. They don't see it as it has not been a problem in their city. It just hasn't. If someone was to bring up empirical data, evidence, to back up what they say and relate it to West Covina, fine. But without that, it's just a scare tactic. Pictures of cars being smashed up, pictures of cars driving into gas pumps. I'm sorry, but it is about allowing these businesses to compete on a level playing field and compete fairly. West Covina is, we love your business. Come shop in West Covina. Okay, that's what it's about for me, is to allow these businesses to compete fairly. They will regulate it. We've got these conditions. We're not. The concern was Well, they're going to be selling the 40 ounces and the tall boys. And, years ago, I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to take me downtown, LA, to the liquor stores. And they were selling individual cigarettes in a glass. They'd open up the cartons and put glasses out there and sell cigarettes for 50 cents a piece. We're not going to allow them to break these quantities up. They're going to know the rules and the regulations when they sign on. Everyone is going to be in front of us for a CUP. I don't know how many are going to do it. I don't know. But I have faith in these businesses that have been here, and some of them do live in West Covina. I've had faith in these businesses that have been doing business here for years, for decades, that they will continue to operate an upstanding business. So, we've dealt with this before. We've passed it on to the council before. The council, didn't have the votes the last time. A council member has decided he wanted to hear it again and reconsider it. Now it's back to us. So I'm ready to move it forward and send it back to them and let them do whatever they're going to do with it. Those are my comments.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, I hear both sides. Thank you, everyone, for coming over and have a great discussions. And I, for one, have not been in the commission for that long, just only a couple of years, but I have heard quite a few residents come over and have a huge discussion about this. Now, I am concerned because one, it's a law that we have that's being grandfathered, that the commissions and the councils that's been here for the last 40 years have been protecting our city, one way or the other. And they had this code and have, thinking in the past for all of us, and then I am not comfortable with removing it just for the sake of having alcohol in a gas station. Now, the businesses that people who purchase the business, there are always restrictions. Restrictions in a sense that, you bought that business knowing that you cannot sell alcohol. It's not something new that we are restricting them. They know right from the get-go. They've been here 30 years. Now, the owner may not be a problem, but the customer may be a problem. We had nicer neighborhood because of how we protect the neighborhood versus certain neighborhoods that are, you can say, I wouldn't go there after 12 o'clock at night or daytime, but it can be rough. Is rough the word for a neighborhood? Yes, it's to me. And also at the same time is that we have a certain type of people who live in a certain area. And it's important that we don't want to encourage whether it's, the convenience of buying alcohol, whether it's to drink it on the sidewalk or on the property of that owner. Police cannot remove them. Police will not come to the gas station, and especially if you open up to 21, they're not going to come over to remove a drunken person that may be disturbing the customers or people who's going to get gas besides going in to buy alcohol. So the only reason I know about this is because I had friends that work in a convenience stores that had issues with whether it's drunken issues, whether it's homeless. They can call the police all day long, but they're not going to come and they're not going to remove them. They have the right to stay there. It's the public street, according to what I heard. So even if we limit them to tell them, hey, you can't do this or you can't do that, but the chances of some people to go and do these things are high. High meaning that homeless people might be there more often because they have everything in their own shopping cart. They can just leave it outside, and they may not be able to go to a full blown grocery store because they might come back out and not have their things. So it's important that, we take all this into considerations. And also another thing that troubles me is that for the 4 or the 5 commissioners that are being appointed, we're being appointed here, and each of us represent about over 20,000 residents here. And we're speaking not just for what we want, also for the whole resident and how is it going to be negative impact on resident. Already right now, we as West Covina, we're lack of resources. I don't see any extra money coming anywhere to hire more police. And if we encourage activity that is not favorable to the community, then how is that going to help us in the long run? Police are not here to tell us how we should run our city. We are the 5 of us that was appointed and is elected by the people, and we are being appointed, and we are their voice. We're speaking for all of them. It's because how it's going to impact and what we vote and how the rules and regulations are being made will affect forever, especially if we remove the grandfather law that has been here. And this is not the first night that I heard about that law. So it's important that all of us take I like to, maybe come back, have discussions about this, or wait until after the elections and have a more discussions with the new elected officials or appointees and see where we can go from there. So in the past, we have commissioners that really loves to, keep this thing and protect our city. And I like to see it tonight too, to see if we can do some things to continue, protect our neighborhood, protect our city, and not just about commercial activity and the fairness of commercial activities. I mean, the codes in our city codes, they all know we don't have to change it to satisfy their commercial activities. There is a code for a reason, and we need to follow it for a reason. And I believe that we should continue to keep these codes because the negative impact potentially is there, and it can be high. Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. I guess we're done our discussions and we'll move to any motion.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve Code Amendment number 220-07 and send it to the City Council.
Second that. I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion to add that the police department produce a statistical analysis of police service calls to gas stations in neighboring cities where alcohol is served, and provide in that analysis correlation between those service calls and alcohol sales at those establishments.
Well, I think that if the City Council wants to do that, once it gets over to them, I think they can do that. But I want my motion, as stated, to go to the City Council.
I'll second that because I believe that as planning commissioners, we're here to work on the code, not council. Council approved the code of what we decide what we wanted to do. I'll second Commissioner Craig or Adam. So,
You're seconding the addendum?
He didn't make a motion.
he just like to add a. Well, how do we do this?
Commissioner Jaquez, are you making a substitute motion?
Yeah, my substitute motion would be to add what I requested the police department do in terms of a statistical analysis, and add it to the recommendation to approve the item, to approve the the recommended the ordinance, the new ordinance.
Are you saying to get that information prior to us voting?
No, not prior to us voting. To provide to the city council.
So if I may, Commissioner Jaquez, I will restate your motion,
Sure.
which is to adopt the resolution recommending to the City Council approval of the code amendment with the addition that that the Commission ask that the Police Department review the statistical information that you've laid out and present that to the City Council when this matter is heard before them.
Correct.
Correct.
So-
But you are allowed, commissioners may make substitute motions, and the motions are voted in order of the newest motion, so the substitute motion would be voted on first. So that's Commissioner Jaquez's motion, seconded by Chair Heng. And so that would be the first motion to be voted on.
All right, I have questions on this motion.
Yeah, I don't concur with that because it depends on what cities you take. You're going to compare Compton with,
No. Obviously, they would
Who's
have.
going to pick the cities and all that? And
They would be looking at neighboring cities that are similar in nature and demographics.
yeah, they brought us information.
I don't believe they have done it in the way that I've laid it out.
I know because I've been on the commission quite a while, and I know that we have gone to the police department to get information prior to making these decisions, and I don't think it's going to make any difference from my.
Well, I mean, you can vote on the substitute motion and.
Well, let me ask my question then. If we pass Commissioner Jaquez's motion, does that remove the ban? Does that enact to allow us to regulate retail the sales?
Well, as part of his motion is to recommend that the council approve it.
Yes.
With the additional police information.
So the only thing you're doing, what's in front of us would, my motion.
Yeah, it basically adds to.
Sense pass.
Yes.
And you're adding that when it goes to the city council, that report is part of what is presented to them.
Yes.
Staff.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. He's just asking for an extra report.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Staff to read the resolutions and roll call.
So we are voting on the substitute motion first, which is a motion by Commissioner Jaquez, second by Commissioner Hing, that the Planning Commission recommend Code Amendment 20-07 to the City Council with a request, because I believe the police chief actually works for the city manager, so this would be a request on the part of the Planning Commission that the police chief.
It would be a request to the city manager then.
Yes. Provide additional information to on this item before it gets to the city council. So that is the motion before the commission at this time. So Commissioner Holtz.
For clarity, right now we're voting to allow the gas stations to have, that's what the motion is, right?
Yes. That is correct.
Aye.
Commissioner Jaquez?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy? Aye. Commissioner Redholz,
Aye.
and Chair Hing.
I guess aye.
So the motion passes 5-0. And I'll look to our parliamentarian here, Ivy. I don't believe there's a need for a vote on the first motion. Is that correct? Okay. So that concludes this item, and this matter will be forwarded to the City Council for their consideration.
We have non-hearing, moving on to the non-hearing items. Do we have any?
A rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard today from a pretty good source that Sizzler is filing for Chapter 11.
Sizzler's filing for bankruptcy, yes.
Pardon?
They're filing for bankruptcy, Sizzler.
I can add some additional information to that. Yes, the Sizzler USA is filing for bankruptcy. The management company that owns 11 Sizzlers, it's 11, maybe 13, I don't remember the exact number, including the one here in California, is not filing for Chapter 11. So the Sizzler in West Covina will remain open, at least as of today.
All right, thank you.
I wonder if they're ever going to do the remodeling that we've approved. I don't know how many years ago now. Yeah, you don't have, yeah, right, yeah, that's true. Not as long as this pandemic is on.
Yeah, but at least according to the local management company, the store here will remain open.
Good. Yeah, I have a, I don't know whether it's Mother May I or what, but recently the city of Pasadena, their planning commission recommended to their city council that they take a look at penalties or increasing the penalties, as we talked about earlier, of licensed contractors that are operating without permits. I don't know whether that falls into something that we can suggest here. I'm not sure. But there seems to be a lot of it, where there are licensed contractors working without permits, and they get caught. And I don't know what the ramifications are of that to the licensed contractor. I mean, I don't know. If I'm talking out of school, let me know. But
the building code does have provisions that allow the city to charge double fees for work which is done without a license. I think it's something that we'd have to potentially do some analysis on. I don't know what the city's ability is to add additional infractions. We do have also code enforcement, and I think the commission is aware that we have a new code, well, not so new anymore. He's coming up on about a year. Code enforcement manager, he just did a pretty complete presentation to the city council last Tuesday night, and he does have a very active staff, so there are other remedies that the city does pursue. And I think previously, you are correct, we had quite a bit of work that was done without permit.
And that punitive action, you said it's doubled. Is that against the licensed contractor himself or the person who hired him, or?
It's in order to obtain a building permit. So let's say code enforcement finds that property owner at 1234 Main Street did work without a permit. When that owner came in to get the permit, there would be a double fee assessed. Who actually pays for that, whether it's the homeowner or whether it's the contractor, it's the person obtaining the permit.
Okay, the permit.
That's when the fee is levied.
It just kind of concerns me because it seems to be happening. So anyway, I'm not looking for anything. There's no rush as far as a report.
Not so fast. I had a question for Mark about the process that's going to move forward with the LEAP grant in the rewriting of the code on for planning in the city. And I understand this is going to be a very long process. It's going to be a multi-year process, maybe 2 or 3 years it's going to ultimately run. But how soon, first of all, do you think that this is going to be getting underway? And also, might there be some discussions that we might want to have to offer some of our thoughts about how some of these codes can be rewritten, based on some things that I know that I've seen that that have come before us, and there's not much we can do to address a certain situation that we see on its face is troublesome, and we wish we could say, I wish there was something in the code to say that we could hang our hat on to not let this particular development practice occur. What is the answer to those questions?
Sure. Just a little bit of background. I think all the commissioners are aware that we did receive notification from the state that we are being awarded a grant, a LEAP grant, to update the development code. And LEAP is Local Early Action Planning Grant. The focus is to increase housing production in the state. State HCDs actually decided in this instance they'll use a carrot instead of their usual stick approach. And to answer your question, Commissioner Jaquez, or I guess address your concern, the Commission will absolutely be involved in this thing every step of the way. Joanne and I met last week to start putting together a scope of work. Step one would be hiring a consultant to start that process. We are hoping to have a consultant on board by January.
Oh, that's soon. Okay.
Well, that's a hope, right?
Okay, yeah.
We hope for many things, some which come to reality and some which don't. But I think maybe not early January, but I certainly think by the end of January we could have somebody on board, a team on board to start that process. And I would imagine one of the first meetings will obviously be with the Planning Commission to gather input. We've talked about having a steering committee comprised of 2 commissioners, because we can't have more than 2 due to the Brown Act, as well as members of the public and local builders and contractors who've done work with the city to kind of help guide the process and to gather public input. But it is, you are correct, it is probably about a 2-year-long process, plus or minus, to get the code actually adopted. But I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to start in early 2021 on this process.
Okay. And as much as the LEAP grant's objective is to accelerate housing production, I was kind of surmising that it might also be an opportunity to, address some tweaking in the development code for some of the things that I see as as a concern. I'll use an example, for example, and maybe some fellow commissioners might weigh in on what they think about this as an example. We saw an item come before us where a rather large lot in the South Hills area was going to be subdivided to create there was actually one new house proposed, and I think there is something that's in the existing code says that that there's a minimum size that of lot that can be subdivided, and maybe that might be the sort of issue that we look at in terms of subdivision constraints, and I think looking at it from the standpoint or the principle of, well, this is sort of a slippery slope of the South Hills area and then the nature of that community. people going crazy, subdividing here and subdividing there, and all of a sudden, it just, the nature of that community is no longer the same. And so, more so from the standpoint or principle of changes to the code to preserve the nature of certain, of various, communities within the city that, we're looking to do those sort of things. And those don't have anything to do with accelerating housing production, but since the exercise is being done to rewrite a lot of the code, maybe we have that opportunity.
Well, there'll absolutely be an opportunity. We're looking at this as a complete rewrite.
Yeah.
We're not starting with the current code saying, let's change line 12 and page 14. It's set the entire code aside, start over. Zero. Okay. That's kind of the approach that we are taking.
Okay.
So I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to revisit every provision.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, I'll try to keep it brief because it's 11 o'clock. The Planning Commission for the last couple of months has not met for the first meeting because we haven't been as active. But October is an exception. We'll meet the first meeting, October 13th, and that is to review the Eminent Hospital. I think we're calling it phase 1 of their precise plan, which is the surface parking lot. So that'll be before the Planning Commission on October 13th, and we don't anticipate having a meeting on October 27th because we don't have any items. And then in November, we'll most likely not have a November 10th meeting. November 24th is Thanksgiving week, and I don't know what schedules are, but we've got a very key project that we think will be ready on November 24th. We do anticipate having a meeting on the 24th. Can I get a quick show of hands? Do commissioners know if they'll? I'd like to know now if we don't think we'll have a quorum so we can tell the applicant. You may be out of town. Are other commissioners planning?
Probably be in town.
You'll be in town? You're good? Commissioner Kennedy? Your day-to-day? Okay. Commissioner Holtz? You don't? Okay. So it looks like at a minimum we'll have the three-member quorum at a minimum, which is good for our purposes, planning purposes, to know. But we do anticipate having a meeting on the 24th because they're going through the environmental review process. It's just not possible to do it on the 10th. And they've got some pretty tight time constraints. And it's a pretty exciting project, so we'd like to try to keep them on track.
Speaking of exciting projects, the Plaza West Covina was just sold, out of bankruptcy to Pacific Retail Partners or something like that.
Correct.
I think they purchased 7 of their properties. And is there any new information you have as far as?
We've reached out to the new ownership. You are correct. The 7 malls that Starwood owned that were in that package of properties did go into foreclosure. Pacific Retail bought all 7 properties. We have reached out to them. At this point, they're saying, we're trying to kind of go through the portfolio and decide what our next steps are. So we hope to be able to meet with them, November time frame.
Because that was on the verge of coming to us.
It was, correct. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, we're still optimistic that there is absolutely a project to be had there. Even Starwood was saying that they felt out of the 7 properties that they had, this was probably the one that made the most sense to develop, just given its geographic area in Southern California on the 10 freeway between downtown Los Angeles and Ontario. So we're pretty certain that Pacific will feel the same way, but we haven't been able to talk to them yet.
Yeah, just, I remember when Starwood was going through their problems, and they stopped everything else, but they kept this one kept this one in the air.
That is correct, yes. Yeah.
So hopefully Pacific will realize that and keep it going.
Yeah, we're optimistic that they will. And that concludes my report.